All right. Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing this evening? All right. It is another Friday night. I hope everybody is doing well out there. It is good to be back this week. Good evening, everyone. Brother Christopher, how are you tonight? It's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. I hope things are working out for you. Um, Good to see you as usual. But I'm glad to be back at least this week. As some of you know, that I had to cut that live stream last week pretty short because I was just sick. I just wasn't feeling it. Good evening, brother Jorge. Good to see you as well again. Uh, yeah, I was just, but I'm glad to be here this week. Not as sick as last time, so um, and I'm trying to stay warm so I don't get sick again, or and try to get in to bed a little earlier. As some of you know, I'm up until midnight and I just keep doing research and studies or preparing things, and it's nonstop. And I'm not complaining. Please don't misunderstand me. Those guys get less sleep than I do, but I get about 5 to 6 hours. That's a pretty good night if I get 5 to 6. And I think my body was catching up to me at that point, telling me, hey, you need to shut it down. You need to bring it down a level, get some rest because your body ain't healing. So, which is what I did. I try to minimize a little bit better my time. Not as easy to do because now I'm just in bed, 11 o'clock at night. So I shaved off an hour, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it. When you got so much going on, there's what are you gonna do? There's so much that has to be done. So many things to talk about. So many different things in the world, scriptures, Bibles, translations. Uh, I can't stop. So, but I am glad to be here once again this week. Um, Maybe a little bit nagging of a sneeze or a little scratchy throat, but other than that, I'm feeling awesome. Hey, brother Calvin, good to see you once again, brother. Thank you for coming here tonight. And you didn't have to. I know that this is you like to hiatus sometime, and I'm thankful and blessed that you're here. Um, I was going to I think I asked you last week, but I wasn't sure when your son was taking off, and I'm pretty sure it was this month that he was taking off. So I hope. My wife and I prayed once 2 weeks ago. We're gonna pray again. We just didn't know what day he was taking off. Um, but my son as well, he passed the body weight count, so he's excited about that. He has over that percentage mark, so he'll be going to MEPS January 25th, I think, and then then he can then he'll find out where he goes after that. But definitely gonna be praying for your son, definitely. As a father, I've got mixed emotions about it. There's some proudness to it, I guess you can say. I'm trying not to use the word proud in a negative aspect, but proud of him, but at the same time, not looking forward to him perhaps not coming home one day. I know. I'm getting like pretty morbid there. I'm not trying to, but the reality of life is these things. I know for my son, he'll be in intelligence, and supposedly they're not really on the front lines. They're behind the scenes, so to speak. So I guess I can take solace in that. So again, a mixture of proud of him doing something with his life and potentially doing something greater, and that's fantastic. But also, as a dad, you get a little nervous. You're proud but nervous. Um, I was glad my son had asthma. You can't get in with asthma? I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a thing. So, I learned something new tonight. Asthma. Hey, there's a, excuse me. See, I told you I have a little bit of nagging. I take some cough drops, but I'm nowhere near as bad as last week. Like I said, last week, right after the live stream, which was less than an hour, I was straight to bed. I was knocked out for pretty much the whole weekend. Saturday, I tried to make it through Saturday, but I was crushed on Sunday, and so I'm happy to be here this week in a lot better situation. But hey, there's something I want to get your opinions on or have a conversation about. Street preaching, not the aspect of actually street preaching itself, but the videotaping of, or videotaping. what an old word that is. Nobody has videotapes anymore. There's no VCRs out there. You're not going to be buying any BASF tapes anymore, Memorex or whatever. But the whole idea of street preaching, which I'm obviously fully behind, but the recording, that's what I'm looking for. Recording with the body cams or regular videos or cell phones. I'm a person who's got, I'm a pretty opinionated guy sometimes. I try not to be too rude or too over zealous when I these conversations. Sometimes it can come out wrong, it's understandable. And if a brother corrects me and say, hey, that was a little harsh, then I look at that. Matthew goes to MEPS again on the 14th, then to Fort Lee. All right, so Matthew goes to MEPS again on the 14th of February, then off to Fort, okay, I'm guessing that's Missouri on the 17th. Well, bravo. Yeah, so, okay. So Stephen went again. He's going again to MEPS on January 25th. And, 25th and the 26th, or 24th and the 25th. I forget how, I'd have to look at my text message he sent me earlier today. But he's going to go the overnight thing they bring everybody, I guess, to a hotel. The next day they do the thing. So, because he missed the body count by 2%, the body fat, I guess. He's a big kid. He's 5'11". He's got some more weight on than he should have. But the younger generation, they even with all the healthy food in the house, still acting like a young teenager. But 21 sometimes are not as listen. All of us at 21 we're not geniuses. Okay, we can all admit that. In fact, I don't care if somebody at 21 was a genius and a prodigy student. There's probably some things that they still made bad decisions about. As the old scientific term goes, your brain is not fully formed until I think it's the age of 25. But he eats some stuff he shouldn't be. We got fish in the house. We eat natural fish. We eat natural chicken. All that stuff. But what are you gonna do? But I'm just glad he made that cutoff. He worked hard at it and then slipped up, but he could have done better. But I'm proud of him for where he got to. Sometimes we have to remember where we want our kid to be and be proud of where they are, because when you look at the society itself and the culture, he's not way over there. So thankful for how good he is, but want to see him improve. I think that's a natural thing to want for that a person naturally get better and him to be better off. I think we can all admit, well, I'll say it, I think we want our kids, whether we have sons or daughters, we want them to be better than we were. It's not a knock on ourselves, but I think each generation wants their children to be better, well off, smarter. When I mean well off, I don't mean rich, like, he's a millionaire. I mean, he's better off. He's in a better situation. He's got a better future. Maybe we'll have less struggles in different areas than we did. Personally, I think if you're a dad worth your salt, you want your kids to be better off than you are. You don't want to hand it all over to them, but you also want them to be as best as possible. Matthew 6'3", 192. I have two uncles on my mother's side. I was 6'6", the other 6'5", so he doesn't get it from me. 5'11". 5'11" don't come from me either. My father, who's actually shorter than I am now, he had major surgery. Well, first of all, older people shrink a little bit, but he was also, I want to say he was about 5'10", and he had surgery. I think 3 discs were taken out. He has a lot of compression on his body. He had a back brace type thing on for those the old ones when I was a kid. It's like that metal back brace thing that's as stiff as a rock. He was in that for like a year after that surgery. Back then, of course, now they do fancy stuff where they can fix it, but he wasn't. And then my mother was, I think, 5 foot tall. My mother was on the shorter side, so didn't get from me. But my Pepe, which is French for a grandfather, it could be Pepe, could be another language too. He was, I want to say, he was around probably 6'3", 6'4", right in that area. Because my father's ancestors and whatever, they were on the taller side. They were rather tall people. On my mother's side, actually opposite of my mother's side, were a little bit on the shorter side. Um, Although I never met my mother's father, which would have been my grandfather. He committed suicide back in 1950 something. He killed himself. When was it? I'm trying to think. It was in the 50s at some point. I don't know. He served in World War II. Wish I would have been able to met him and talk to him. But yeah, he took his life in Townsend, Mass. Brother Jorge might know where Townsend is. My mother was born, well, my mother was born at Weymouth or South Weymouth, Mass, and then they moved up to Townsend, and that's where he took his life. Interesting story on that. Parents are very dishonest sometimes, telling the truth, but he served in World War II. He actually was injured in World War II, and then he had came home because he was over in Italy at that time, and then he did something or other, and he was able to, basically he figured out a way of lying or something to be able to go back when he shouldn't have been, because he got shot over there. I guess he got shot in the leg or something like that, from the story goes. And then he tried to go back, and he did go back, but this time I think he was in France somewhere, so he was over there at one point. So I think he might have slipped $20 to the maitre d' to get himself a good table and got over there. So, and but he made it through there and came on home, and it's just that simple. He was a Finnish man. My mother's parents, they came over from Finland, or was it the grandparents? Yeah, the grandparents came over, and he came over. The Russians were in Finland at that time, and they were kind of persecuting some folks and killing people, and they escaped all that stuff. So that's how they got here. Townsend is nice. There's actually, you know what's funny? There's another Townsend down here in Tennessee. So there's a Townsend in Mass. If you guys ever have Sterilite, if you ever seen that Sterilite containers and stuff like that, they make a lot of that in Townsend. They may have other places, but there's a big factory over in Townsend. I actually worked there once. My brother was actually in maintenance there as well. So that was, but it is nice down there. In fact, Townsend, Massachusetts, is where I bought my first watch. I bought my first watch in Townsend, Massachusetts at a Family Dollar. It was a G-Shock watch. And if anybody knows G-Shock, they became like huge and $1 million to buy a G-Shock. But back then you could buy one at a Family Dollar. It was a downtown Townsend. If you're coming from Fitchburg, you take a right. It's right down off the common somewhere down there. And because my grandfather used to have a pocket watch, and I just was fascinated with watches. I didn't collect the pocket watches, but I ended up collecting the just regular wristwatches. I bought, back in the day, I was buying Wittenauer, a Bulova from Joseph Bulova. I was really into that type of stuff. I would buy the Acuras there. So I used to love watches. I bought some Seikos and Citizens, but loved watches. And that's why I bought my first watch, was in Townsend, Massachusetts. But anyways, there's a town, before I get to the next comment, there's a Townsend here, Brother Jorge, Tennessee. Brother Calvin may have been through this area in Townsend. But it is kind of the same, a little bit, not a lot the same, but similar. Beautiful countryside, just beautiful in Townsend. In fact, Townsend, Tennessee is actually what swayed me to come to Tennessee. And I think my wife knew that. I think she set that drive up on purpose. But it was a smart thing to do. That won me over down here. My dad growing up was 5'10" and stocky. Now he's about 5'7" and still stocky. Yeah, my dad was stocky. 82 years old and shrinking. I'm not laughing at shrinking, but it's funny how that works. At one time, he had 17-inch biceps and 242-inch chest. Mike Tyson. Oh, Mike Tyson. That's Mike Tyson. Yeah, my father was strange. He looked unassuming, a little on the stocky side, but really unassuming. But I was always amazed at how much he could lift. He would just be able to lift. He has such strength in his upper shoulders in that area. I was always shocked by that. Yes, Sterilite is there. So it still is there. Okay. I didn't know. Obviously, it's been a few minutes since I've been up in Townsend, Mass. Weird thing here, a side story real quick. When when I was driving for KSI, which is an auto parts company, I was at a rest stop near Virginia. I'm not sure if I was just over the line of Virginia or on my way up to Abingdon, Virginia. I'm not sure. But anyways, I was at wasn't over the line because that would have been near Bass Pro Shop, so it wasn't that one. But anyways, stopped at a rest stop to use bathroom. I see a Massachusetts plate. I was like, whoa, Massachusetts. And the people came out and my car goes, hey, how are you? I said, if you don't mind me asking, where are you from Massachusetts? And they said, Townsend. I said, no kidding. I said, I used to work in Townsend. I grew up in Fitchburg and Leominster. We had a nice conversation. I was probably a little late on my delivery because we talked for about a half an hour. Yikes. But anyways, it was a good conversation, but it was neat. What are the odds? I remember hearing about G-Shock watches, but have never seen one. Yeah, they a few years ago were insanely expensive. And I was making jokes too. I was working, I was coaching basketball in the inner city up in Springfield, Mass. I was coaching basketball. This is going back a bit. And I was telling the kids, I'm like, you guys are buying these G-Shocks for like $1 billion. I said, I used to get it for a couple of bucks at the Family Dollar. They thought I was lying. I said, I'm not kidding. They were nobody. But then what happens? You get a sponsor, you get some big NBA player to sponsor them, and then all of a sudden they're worth more than value than they should be. And if you grew up in the 80s, some of you might remember Bugle Boy, Gutcha shirts, and they weren't that great, but you had, the money to spend on advertising and stuff like that. Yes, I do remember Swatch. I did not personally have one, but I knew of people who had Swatches in my school, so I do remember those. I think the company Bennington, I could be wrong, Bennington in Switzerland or something like that made the Swatch, which makes sense, Swiss watch, so Swatch. Oh, my niece and family just moved to a farm in McMinnville. Where is McMinnville? I can't remember where that is. Oh, where is McMinnville? I wish I had a farm. But, sometimes we shouldn't wish because God gave us what he gave us and we're good. That's how you got to look at it sometimes. He gave us what we needed. I'm not sure where. I'm going to look it up right now because I can't remember where that is. You say east. So it's in East Tennessee. Okay, because I feel like I've been through it. You would know, Brother Chris. Where am I over here? East. You would know more than I would where it is, but I feel like I've been through there and I can't remember where it is. It's one of those places where you forget about it. I don't know why. I'll look it up real quick while we're talking. Tennessee, listen, it's got some beautiful areas. It's got some gorgeous, gorgeous areas. And then there are some other areas that aren't perfect, but, they're all right. Okay, you're saying towards Nashville. Okay, on 40 West. All right. I'm looking at a map right now. I'm like trying to zoom in and out of it. Oh, I know why I've been through there. Okay. I think I had to go to Manchester at one point. That there was an awful place to go to down there. Sparta, I know Sparta because I delivered in Sparta. You know where Sparta is, Brother Christopher. You know that for sure. Shelbyville, yeah, okay. I think if we had stops there. So we did have stops there. Okay. That's probably why I recognize it. Have I been down to Shelbyville? Hey, Shelbyville in Tennessee, is that where I think it's the Walking Horse. Is that the home of the Walking Horse? There's an airport down there. I could be wrong, but I feel like there's an airport down there and some Walking Horse something or other down there. Not sure. I'm not sure either, but do you remember Swatch? Yes, it is. Okay. Because I've gotten stuck twice there before. There's a school on that main drag that gets out. And if you hit that school zone area, forget about it. You're there forever. It's a pain in the neck. There's a gas station down there. Once in a while, I'll stop to grab water on my way back, but I think that's the same stretch of road. Big money area. Yeah, well, you got that Walking Horse thingamajig, which is supposed to be pretty popular. It was famous even back when my wife lived here nearly 30 years ago, so it was even famous back then. But, man, oh, man. But there's a lot of, listen, Tennessee's got some beautiful areas, but the way prices are going, I might move on out. I just saying. So we'll be down in Florida at the end of May, but I got to figure out how I can make one of those days. I don't want to be doing a bunch of things, but I got to figure out how to work in that French, the Huguenots there park, because I want to check that out. So I'm not sure how I'll pull that off, but I'm hoping to. That's a nice watch. That is a nice watch. Dad owns an Omega made in the early 70s, which will be passed to me by Dad and then passed to Matthew one day. That is a real nice watch. They made a really nice watch. It's like getting those early World War II Bulivas, in my opinion. I mean, they're different, but just the greatness of those. Even the Rolexes back then. I've never had a Rolex. I might have had a Romex. My nephew had an uncle on the other side of the family, and he owned the company or was a CEO of a company called Nipro Molding up in Clinton, Massachusetts. And he used to go over to China a lot for business because, everything's outsourced to China. And he would come back with fake Rolexes and stuff like that. And they look legit. They look real. I mean, they ain't playing around. They can make some good ones. If you get the right expensive knockoffs, you can get some good ones over in China. I mean, they make great cheap TVs, I guess, too. Or is that Japan? I don't know which one. Yeah, I have a couple of my watches left. I forgot I had some of them because I started to try not to be materialistic about things, so I got rid of them. Like my watch, my father has a Bulova watch that he received from work when he retired. So that obviously would go to me. And like yourself, Brother Calvin, I'll give that to Steven eventually someday. Being the oldest, he'll get that one. So, and the other watches, I think I may have 3 or 4 of them. I'll probably split them up between the kids. Invicta was another decent watch that I like to own back in the day. Again, there was I had a little bit of materialism to me going back a couple decades. I don't have that anymore as much, so that's good. I don't covet to have these things anymore. They're not only a waste of money. I mean, look at what you could spend your money in. I look at a lot of things I bought. One, man, that's a lot of money I could have put into other areas. But live and learn, and now I don't have them. Now I don't have all the watches. I've gotten rid of them over time. I actually wanted to get into making or fixing watches. I bought a small kit one time. I was ordering up a magnifying glass that connects to your desk and you look at them, fix them. I was really into it at one time, but then I got out of it. My uncle, I think it's Lewis, not my uncle, I should say. My father's uncle, Lewis, was a watchmaker or fixer or repairman or something up in Canada. He still lives. Well, I don't know if he's passed away or not. I don't know. But he's up in Canada. I'm assuming he would be passed away by now. My dad's 82. That means that guy's over 100. So pretty much, yeah, I'm guessing he's no longer with us at that age. Although people do live over 100, but I don't think he's with us anymore. But yeah, he was a watchmaker up there. He actually did our genealogy. He did the whole, it took him a few years. Because back then, you couldn't look up genealogies type stuff. And I'm not into vain genealogy now. I was then. Doesn't matter to me as much now as it did then. But he found a lot of fascinating stuff. My other son, Brandon, will get my coin collection, and my daughter will be in my will, as I really don't think having anything material she'd be interested in. Well, she'll be interested in something because it's her father's, and that itself would mean something to her, whatever it may be. There's going to be some sort of sentimentality to it. When it comes to coin collection, so my I don't talk about it very often. We've talked about it briefly, but yes, I buy coins and I do certain things in that area. Constitutional silver and stuff like that. But there's something I'll be changing about that coming up. I think I was talking to Brother Jorge about it. But my son Alex, he does the mercury dimes. He likes going to get a mercury dime, but now mercury dimes are really expensive, so he's really got to save his money and work hard to earn more money. In fact, I had to let him borrow $1, and then he worked off the dollar this week by taking on one of his brother's chores for the whole week. So he earned that dollar back. So not a big deal there. But he'll get my Mercury dimes. Now he wants to collect barber dimes, which is fine. But he'll get all my Mercury dimes. All my Mercury dimes that I have, I don't have a billion of them. I'm just saying all that I have of Mercury dimes will solely go to him. Other stuff will be divided, providing I don't pass away and mom doesn't need it. It'll be split between them all. Kind of like my tools. I'm color coding all my tools. So I'm putting like blue tape, orange tape, and black tape around different tools that are going to go to the kids. So that way it avoids any issues down the road. And my wife knows about the color-coded system. That way everybody knows what I bought them, and these are specifically their tools. That way there's no issues down the road. I just, then it all goes to them. But, yeah, so that, to talk about coins. But it's something I tell you. I do invest in precious metals. And when I say invest, I don't mean, I don't like talking about this stuff because I don't think it's a biblical thing to talk about so much. So bothers me a little bit because I don't want to come off like, oh, this guy's got money. No, not really. I mean, that's what buying silver and a little bit, if you can get a little bit of gold, but silver and all that, it's worth more. And I think we are to prep ourselves in some ways to ride out certain storms. Now, doesn't mean if you're a born-again Christian that if you didn't have any silver, suddenly God's not going to protect you. That's not what I mean. So we try to protect ourselves with that. But I will not be buying what I once did. Every week I usually buy a little something. I'll be buying less because it's been weighing on me a lot. Not only because the yes, amen. So I'm trying to figure out a way to say this, and this is not. And Brother Christopher, you and I have talked about this, not on video, but we've talked about this before, and as you can see, if you bought silver, if you guys don't think this is a biblical conversation, I'll definitely move on from it. I don't want to come off all, because people do. There are Christians out there that brag about how much silver they have, and I got this, and I got that, and I bought this, and I bought that. I think that's pretty dangerous. I think you alienate some people. That's what I think. But I think if you can do it, just by a little bit, and I know we live in a time we can't. Now, on any income level can prepare. I think when I think about that, I also think about canning, hunting your own food, growing your own food. That's another level of preparedness that you can have. Slaughtering your own chickens. I think there are things you can. That's a little bit tougher because you got to buy feed, and what happens when feed's too expensive? Well, chickens live off if you let them free roam or roam free. They can live off your land. We didn't have them roaming around until really recently, because we had an issue with the dog. It did when we first got the chickens. Some of the chickens. She went after a couple, got one, killed one. So we're like, oh no, it's not a farm dog. What are we going to do? Well, not too long ago, one of the chickens, or two of the chickens, I say, somehow got over the fence. And I forgot we didn't clip their wings because they were new. They were born here on the property. So they got over the fence. But turns out the dog didn't go after them at all. And now the dog doesn't even go, it will run by them, look at them, whatever, but doesn't go after them anymore. So now we let them roam free. Not all of them take off, but there's a handful of them that will go out into the property. So we're glad for that. So you don't need chicken feed, except for the wintertime. You would have to make chicken feed or buy chicken feed. Obviously, there's a lot of things. You can give them elbows, beans, things of that nature to keep your costs down. Like we feed our dog our food, like scraps, like real food, not scraps like skin and skin only. A little bit of this, and we'll have to make them healthier. But that's another level of being prepared that you can be, and I think that's a lot easier to prepare for. So I really feel like the Lord would want us to be prepared. Yeah, if you can prepare the best that you can prepare for on your budget and on your income, but I think some people can go overboard, and I think maybe perhaps even I did. Maybe I was overly concerned about certain things, so that's therefore I pulled back. So what I was putting into buying those items, some silver and some constitutional, that I would have to say 80 to 90% of that money is now going into Bibles. So we'll be now purchasing Bibles from a company called Bibles in Bulk, the New Testament. We'll start out with that. So we're going to buy them. It's like 48 in a case. So we're going to start doing that, investing our money there because it's been really tugging at me that I need to get more Bibles, not just gospel tracts, but more Bibles out into people's hands in every mailbox everywhere. And I'm talking King James. So therefore, that's where our money is mostly going to go now, pretty much a high amount of it, 95% of it. But I do like to collect coins, and my son and I go, so it's a wonderful time together. It's still like an installation company out here. I might think of something else. Yeah, they make the plastic. Yeah, they make the plastic containers. You can find them in any store. Another one used to be Tucker. I think Tucker was another one. They're out of, I think they're now in Leominster, Massachusetts. Leominster, Massachusetts actually is known as the Plastic City. Interestingly enough, so they're very known for plastics. So all around that area is a lot of plastic. What were we talking about originally? Street preaching or street preachers? What is y'all's opinion on that? I got to be honest. I'll tell you how I feel, and I guess there's no wrong or right answer for this. Yes, it's an interesting topic, but yes, they do make those. They do make those. I think another company is Everflow or Evenflow or something like that. They're the other ones. Is there a level when you're going out street preaching and you're videoing and recording everything? Does that not become a look at me moment, as the Pharisees did, a little bit like the Pharisees look at me, saying their prayers in the synagogues, standing up and being on the street corner so everybody can see them. And I would say in our life, we're going out there preaching on the streets and talking, witnessing people is perfectly fine. But when you start video recording them and putting them up on YouTube to get some hits and clicks and views, I know that appeals to a natural part of us who likes to see it. We want to watch it to see what's going on out there. But now those who can't go out. That's fine. But in a way, doesn't that stop others from going out themselves? Instead of watching the video of it happening, you can be that person out there doing it. Instead of watching, well, good, there's somebody out there doing it. I don't have to worry about it. Well, I mean, if you can go out and do it, you kind of should be doing it. But I think probably some people make their whole channel is about it. So I have a little bit of a problem because I personally don't think we should be recording it. And I may have talked about this before, but I mean, maybe if you're recording it as a safety issue, I can see that. But I mean, now we just look at, there's a guy feels like a look at me. People should know you're Christian by example, not show me. Well, yeah, no, that's true, but that's basically showing your light. But also, so it's the same, but not the same as, in my opinion, being out there on the streets. You should be out there spreading the word. But when we're videoing it to get our views, I think it's a moment of interest. I remember seeing one time, and I don't click on these videos. I just don't, because I just don't. It rubs me the wrong way. I think some of these people that I've seen are you watch the mannerisms and the body language, and it's more about them doing it than what they're doing. Even when you're giving alms, like in Matthew 6:2 and 6:5 or 6:3, 6:4, right in chapter 6 in that area. For me, a brother in Christ who is on many of my playlists, did a lot of street preaching, but rarely recorded. He went home to Jesus last year at 36 years old. Sound the battle cry. I feel like I may have watched one of those videos on your channel. I'm pretty sure I might have seen that. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure, because I've tried to watch your stuff. Not that it's hard to watch your stuff, but I've gone through some of your I deep dived some of your playlists at one point for a couple straight weeks. I kept on putting them on and doing other things, but kept on watching them. A lot of them. You had some good playlists in that. Now, I'm not trying to attack people who are going out there. That's not my in videoing. I'm not trying to attack. I don't want, because it'll probably come off that way, and somebody's going to take it the wrong way and think, oh, then what, are you going to just sit home and not go out street preaching or witnessing? No, that's not what I'm saying. I think about this guy down in Etowah. When I drive down through Etowah, usually in the good weather, the spring and the summer, he's out there, and he's got no GoPro on him, but he's out there. He's got his sign up there, repent. I don't know where he is in the walk. I don't know any of that. I have yet to stop. I beeped at him a couple times. I keep telling myself eventually I'm going to stop and have a conversation with him. He doesn't have a YouTube channel. He's not out there on YouTube. He's not wearing a Instagram shirt. Barcode my Instagram. I remember at Rural King up in our area. There's a Rural King, which is kind of like a Tractor Supply, but they don't like Tractor Supply. Anyways, one of those retail war things. But in the intersection, there was a couple of guys there, and they were doing their thing. Blah blah blah. They had the signs up and everything, and KJV and all that. So I personally, it was and they were doing it in cold weather at that point. It was fall, but it was cold. So I was with I'm not sure who I was with. I was either with I was with one of my sons. It could have been, or both. I'm both my youngest ones. I'm not sure. But anyways, we went up to the coffee shop up there and got a couple of hot coffees. I was gonna say hot cocos, hot coffees. No, it was hot cocoa. We did get hot cocoa. And then brought it down to them, gave it to them so they could. And that's not. I'm not saying that to tell you, oh, look what I did. I'm saying we brought them there. But they didn't have GoPros on. They weren't videotaping what they were doing and stuff like that. Talked to a guy one time for about 5 minutes. I was saying, hey, I'm glad to see you out here, blah, blah, blah. There's a guy in a parking lot, trying to hand out gospel tracts and everything like that. He tried to give me one that says, honestly, I'm all set, and I appreciate you doing it. Then we had a conversation. I'm like, I'm not trying to pretend I'm Christian to try to run away from you. I know who God is. Get away from me. We talked for a little bit. And again, what did he not have? Didn't have a GoPro on. He wasn't doing that. He was just doing what he's supposed to do out there. He was called to do. So should we be videotaping at the end of the day? I don't think we should. I personally don't think we should. I think we're in a situation where, I want to prove. I need to prove to everybody that I'm out here. Look at what I'm doing. I'm proving what I'm doing out here. I want evidence so people will know that I'm out on the streets and doing this. Now, I made 2 videos on when I went out, but I didn't record them. I remember making a video a couple of years ago saying, hey, today I'm going to head out. We'll see how this works out. I'm hitting a new spot down in, where was I going? I was in Vernon, but I was on the other side of Vernon in a different area that I don't usually go to. So I went over there, and then that evening I got home, and I did talk about, went pretty decent, got to talk to a couple of people, but I didn't videotape any of it. I have a YouTube channel. I didn't videotape it because I just don't think we should. There was I was going to talk about the channel I was watching, that they were actually witnessing and stuff like that. And then I think my camera just glitched, but they recorded themselves praying with someone who's coming to the Lord or trying to give their life to the Lord. I'm like, well, that was a private moment. I don't think that's right. Nate Marino was his name. He mostly preached outside large gatherings, i.e. concerts, etc. I only know of one recording, and it was about 15 seconds long. I have 10,000 pens. I keep losing. Here's one. I'm just going to write that down. Okay, this pen doesn't work. I always toss my pens across the room and hope they hit the trash can when they don't work. Nate, oh my goodness, is this another one that doesn't work? And another one doesn't work. Get that pen down. Oh, this should work. These actually usually work. This pen will work. Let me take the little tip thing off there. All right. Neat. There you go. It does work. Look at that. See? These kind, I tell you, these little gel pens, they seem to work all the time. Nate Marino was his name, and Sound of Battle Cry, I think. All right, Sound Battle Cry. All right, I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna look and see if I saw those videos on your playlist before. Let's see what happens. Hope you guys are enjoying the Westcott and Hort. So what I've been doing, I've been expanding my conversations in those Westcott and Hort. I was comparing scriptures, but I decided to start doing a little bit of talking about why those verses are important in the West, that are missing from the Westcott and Hort, and what they signify. So I'll be getting into that. Obviously, this Sunday or Monday, I'll have, I think, what am I in? John 5? I think John 5. I can't remember now. I'm into so many of them. 5-4. I think it's 5-3 and 5-4, or 5-2 and 5-3. I'd have to look, but one of those two. The moving of the waters is what we were talking about on that one. I think to give more, because I guess it's easy for one to say, hey, this is missing. Look at all they're missing from. And it's good to do that, but I decided to fine tune it, basically to tell why it's important that that's actually there, and why it should be there. So, and what it means, what the relevancy is of it. So hopefully that goes well at some point. But so that's kind of my take on the street preaching situation, or videotaping, I should say, street preaching. I know that there are going to be, I think, a lot more people disagreeing with me than agreeing with me on that, because I think it's also kind of appeals to our flesh. We want to see what's going on. We want to see the craziness of it. I remember a long time ago, I came across this guy, Gabe the Street Preacher. That's his name. I was trying to think of what his name was. I can see him in my head. And, he goes, people are attacking him and so forth and so on. And maybe for safety, you can have your GoPro and stuff like that. I know he has his wife out there who videotapes the whole thing and puts on YouTube. That's pretty much his whole channel. It's just videoing him outside in the middle of college kids and stuff like that, or going to different places. So I found that interesting. That was the first time I really watched it on video. I was fascinated by that people would videotape it and record it. I thought that was really interesting. There's another guy, I can't remember his name. I can see the hat he wears. He wears almost like a French Italian chapeau, old school hat. I can't remember that guy's name. But again, I've seen a few of them, and it always seems to me like a spectacle. That's what it's just like. It looks like a show. It looks like, we need to watch what they're doing out there. So I just think we should be. What do you need a video for? Why should we care what the world thinks? We shouldn't be putting a show for work. You know what? What verse is it? Matthew 6, and I think Samuel in 1 Samuel 16 says it. I don't know. I wholeheartedly agree. It seems one would not be as open to receiving the gospel knowing they are on camera, but could be wrong. Yeah, and again, I'm not going to guarantee. I'm not going to say that no one has ever given their life to someone while being recorded on video, but I think it's a little bizarre and strange. I want to go to Matthew 6 and see if I'm trying to get to the right area. I can't remember off the top of my head, so I apologize. There's a couple of spots I'm thinking of. But, again, look at me, look at me. It's a spectacle. People standing up on things, and they're screaming the old-fashioned stuff, repent and this and that. And they're right, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're wrong about the word repent. But it's just... it feels like you're watching a movie or something. It's Matthew 6 talks a little bit about it. But I was looking for a particular verse, and I thought it was here. Oh, here we go. Well, here's part of it. I'll read a little bit of it right now. Chapter 6 in Matthew.
take heed that ye do not your alms before men, which is just money. And we see that a lot too. They need to be seen of them. Otherwise, ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. And that's part of what I'm thinking. I think about too is, they're out there in the streets and they're looking to be. They want them views. They want the channels to grow. They want more people watching. And one could ask me, well, why do you have a channel, Stephen? Don't you want your channel to grow? Whether it grows or not, part of me, would say, well, sure. I mean, a little bit, because you want to be able to think, okay, there's more people that you might be giving some information to. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if my channel grows or not. That doesn't stop anything because YouTube can go away. Rumble can go away. What's that? They had other BitChute and Trump Social or Instagram or TikTok or I'd say MySpace, but I don't think that's a thing anymore. Facebook, Twitter, X. All these things can go away. So when they go away, will you still be spreading the word, or will you only be trying to spread the word and try to teach people the Bible, or do your best to teach them what you believe or what you read this and to believe and understand? Sharing your knowledge, will it stop because you don't have a video camera? We're blessed right now to be together tonight for fellowship, and it's awesome. It's absolutely terrific. But there could come a time when we don't have that ability anymore. So when that goes away, do you stop? When no men are looking at you anymore, do you stop? And does it matter? It doesn't to me. If this ends, it ends. Then that means God had it end. That's it. He's moved me on to something else. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm trying to think of. I think it's in Samuel. It talks about basically men see it's not about what men see in you, but God sees in your heart. And I'm paraphrasing, but I think it's 1 Samuel 16, and I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong at where I am. But that's what I think about. I think some of these people that we see on YouTube, I think they disappear. A small branch just hit the roof of my pot shed over here. Maybe it's not 16. So I thought it was 16. It's not it. Oh, it's gonna bother me. I can't remember where. Well, it is what it is. I can't remember where it was, but it doesn't matter what men see. Men see what they want, but it doesn't matter what they see. God sees inside your heart. He knows what the truth is. And when you're putting on these pastor personas and things of that nature, I think that falls apart over time. I think people do see through that and start to have a question about, I don't know what's going on with this guy. I'm not really sure, things of that nature. I think we've all been there, watched something and thought to themselves, I don't know. I've ever only been on YouTube and left Facebook in 2014. But yes, I'll continue sharing the gospel regardless. Amen. Did it before the social media craze, and God willing shall continue. Amen. That's all I'm saying. I mean, it's great to have this moment in time that we can use something like this, and you and I can talk and we can have discussions, and it's awesome. It'd be cool if we all were kind of around each other and were able to meet up, but it's okay. Most of you know my face, so I mean, if you ever see me one day, you're like, hey, I've seen you on YouTube in a long time. But I honestly believe there are some names in the King James world and community. I think they would probably disappear if they didn't have YouTube. I honestly do believe that. There'll be some that stay, no doubt about that. But I think there are going to be some that will not be out there on the streets because they only want to do it on YouTube. That's the only place. They don't want to have conversations. I have it at work. I have it at a grocery store. No matter where I am at, I'm talking about it. My brother Christopher knows this at where we worked. I talked them too. I didn't fully know where he was at that time, but I talked about the Bible then. Did not care. What I'm supposed to do is what I'm supposed to do. So listen, I confronted my boss about him not following scriptures proper, and I got fired. So, what are you going to do? Which, by the way, I would have to say, looking back, and we never see it in the moment until we look back at things. Him firing me is more like God allowing him to fire me. God didn't take his protection off me. God had a plan that I didn't see. So I had moved to another job with better hours, more pay, better benefits, I guess you could say. Yes, I have medical benefits that I don't use. I'm not a big fan of it. Don't think we ever will, but so that's a whole other story. I've got my issues with that. So I'm in a better situation than I was before. So even though that ESV boss fired me, I don't hold any anger against him. He's just another mainstream cookie cutter, false Christian that goes to these little mega churches, And I'm not saying that to be mean or derogatory towards him. I'm just stating a fact. That's what he is. He's just he's a worldly Christian, just like all the other and he goes to some Baptist church which uses ESV. I mean, come on. I don't think you're really Baptist much anymore at that point. I'm not Baptist, but I'm just saying, he left the field there. He's not quite Baptist anymore in the ESV. But yeah, I'll be gone. It doesn't matter to me. That's okay. Because that mission continues. The mission field doesn't disappear. I know I'm using a church terminology that people, he's using mission field. They only do missions in churches. Well, my point's still the same. The mission field is still the same. It's not going to leave. In fact, we send a lot of people, these churches send a lot of people overseas, but I feel like, man, you got a lot of people right here. This is not a Christian country. I know people, this was found on Christians. I'm not talking about when it was founded and way back when. I'm talking about this moment. They couldn't be any further from God. They're like one step away from communist and socialist and anarchist. Well, actually, you have to have them all, actually, but that's where we're at. And I know there's this big desire to pray for this country to go back to God. Well, that's not happening, because when you get near to the end, you get less people following God. It's just, to me, it's just that simple. Trump is not going to create some utopian world. And I'm not saying this because I hate Trump or I'm a Biden person. I'm just saying he's not going to save this world. And there's too many people thinking that. There is no political government that will. I mean, I believe we're close to the end of this particular time frame of an era of an empire. That's my personal opinion. As you look at, if you take biblical references and biblical train of thinking or train of thought, and you look at historical aspects of it, it's kind of where you're at this point. I'm not hating on Trump. I'm just saying that's not, salvation is it. There's nothing there's nothing. We keep going on. Oh, maybe we'll get Greenland. We'll turn things around there with the gold underground. Actually, no, they're not talking about gold, but I will, because they have significant deposits of it. Venezuela, we're going to get oil. We're going to be great again. We're going to get all this, and then we'll be a dominant country, and that's going to save us. None of that matters. Because if you're not saved, guess where you're not going? Guess where you are going? You're going to hell. Your eternal torment, damnation, however you want to use terminology. We all have get arguments over what kind of terminology we're going to use. You will not be in heaven one day. And I've talked about this before. It's like these protests and these anti-protesters and these people coming against each other. And you have these I believe in family values. So do I. And then you go against these socialists and they're going, oh, down with you. We want abortion. We don't want abortion. And then, but we have to take a step back at this. And this is the tough thing to realize. And this is what can get you in trouble. And people want to dance around it. They don't want to talk too much about it. They just want to tiptoe. And we can't tiptoe. If you are not born again, if you are not saved, it doesn't matter what your morals are. You're not going to heaven. And I know that sounds awful. I understand that hurts people's feelings in a weird way. Certainly the charismatics aren't going to like me. I can tell you that right now. None of that. If you are not living for God, truly living, just because you have some maybe a scripture or two up in your kitchen or somewhere else, I'm not knocking people with it because my wife has one too. She has a little sign in there. We have Matthew in there. Did we put? I think we have Joshua too as well. I forget. But it's really a fad that people love to put this in. But then you look at their life and you're like, okay, I'm confused. You're all about God, but yet you do everything worldly possible. That's where we are. We are in a paganistic Christianity, which was developed by the Roman Catholic Church back then. But that's what we are. It's like a mishmash of different things going on. And I talked about the buffet table, and this, that, and the other. I'm like, I want this. I don't want that. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world? And nothing. It doesn't gain. Who cares what's going on in the world? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be fighting against negativity, but at the same time, if you are not born again and you are not saved, it's all for naught, because you're going to see those. Well, I don't know if you'll know them in hell, but you're going to see them again. See, that's the thing that I think we forget sometimes, is you're protesting this, and then those other people you're fighting against, and standing up for this and that, standing up for the laws of the land, but you don't stand up for God. You got your, a few little bumper stickers out there, and but you're not truly living for God. You're not really every day. You're not excluding yourself from the worldly things. Yes, you work in the world. You live in the world. I get it. So, well, I do anyways. I go to work every day. And I'm going to say this, and I'll say this again, and this is, I can't beat this down enough. If you are a healthy man and you are not working, I got no time for you. What are you doing? I think you're not taking care of your own. You're worse than an infidel. Other people take care of your own. And I'm talking about healthy, able-bodied men going out there and working, but they're too good for work. God called me to preach full-time and never have to work again. I don't believe that's true for a lot of folks. I'm not saying it never happens, but there are a lot of people are frauds. I mean, listen, you got people taking money from the government instead of trying. I'm not talking about people who are disabled. People get all mad. Well, some people, I think a lot of us are smart enough to know what kind of people I'm talking about. If you're taking money from government and so forth and so on, you are not supporting your children or child or wife. The government is. And this is a conversation I know I'm probably going to get some real good stuff on this, and people are going to attack me on it. I don't mean that in a bad way, attack me like, swearing and all that. That's why we're going to talk about the military down the road. Yes, I'm aware of my son going into the military. I am aware of that. And that's a part of me that doesn't thrill me. Other part that thrills me is he's doing something a lot more valuable and noble than he's doing now for something grander, and I like that. So I've got mixed emotions, but it doesn't matter. He's got to make his choices in life. I can only give him the best stuff I can for him to fall back on, and that's all we can do. We can't hold their hands all through this world. You know what I'm saying? We can't hold their hands all the way through. It's just not happening. But a man who doesn't work is less than an infidel, because the government takes care of your children. And I will even say that, and I've got no problem with saying that. And there's a guy we all know that we've watched. He lives in another country, but he takes money from the government to support his children so he can be a pastor. Find me, and that's a King James guy, by the way. Give me the scripture on that. Give me the chapter or your nuances about it. Why you do that. And this guy doesn't seem like he's a bad guy, but there are things I am questioning. There are just some odd things that do bother me, concern me. And I'm kind of keeping an eye on it. I'm not out here trying to expose people. I'm not going to go make some hit piece and 12 videos on one guy or anything like that. But it's someone I'm watching for, because I think there's something, don't know. Sometimes there's something that sits with you and you're not sure what's going on, but something ain't right. So you pay attention to it. There's a few of them like that out there. I peek in on certain ones. Other ones I knew about a while ago. I don't even care anymore. I don't even watch this stuff. I think because to me, they're off the reservation, as the old saying goes. So yeah, that's going to get me. I know it's going to get me pushed back and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to create any strife or anger or anything like that. But I think at some point we have to look at things. I mean, the Israelite army, when they fought for God, they fought for God. They didn't end up going. They didn't get a pension plan, right? They didn't get all that stuff. They fought and they went back, right? In some cases, they got spoils of war that they took home. Even the Roman soldiers didn't even get paid much, but actually the Roman Empire is actually who created the pension plan of paying for their military. Once they were no longer in the military, they would give them a stipend and a pension. That was under the Roman Empire that created that, or the modern version of it. I think Brother Jorge and I were talking about this a while back, and I think he brought it up to me one time, and he was telling me, and I think he texted me, and we were talking about stuff, and about that stuff, and he made the same point. He doesn't remember that in Scripture, the Israelites coming back and not doing any work. They didn't go to work. They just sat home and collected money from the government. Listen, I know people who've been disabled and stuff like that collect money from the government and serving, and I'm not even talking about them. You kind of are owed, I guess, is a fine line here. You gave something and you were, yes, agreed. And it's because I'm not against everybody who served, and nobody should ever. Listen, I was just talking to, I'm not talking to you. I was listening to, I think it was a show or talk show in Britain, and I don't know when it was on or when it was broadcast. I saw it in my algorithm, and I clicked on it. It was a World War II veteran, and speaks. World War II veteran talks about today's kids or today's people or whatever. And that obviously, to me, that struck me. So I'm like, I want to hear what this guy says. And maybe some of you seen it, maybe you haven't. But he said, I'm paraphrasing probably here, but he says, if he would have known then what he fought for now, he never would have served in the army because it was a waste of time and he fought for nothing. Think about that for a second. A World War II veteran is telling you he fought for nothing. And that's going to be all the way through. I guarantee the World War I veterans out 20 years later thinking, what did they fight for? We're going back to war. What was the point? The war to end all wars. What was the point? Then you get World War II. That should end it, though. Then you got Vietnam War. What are you doing? War keeps happening. It just happens and happens and happens. Why? Because when you fight, you're not fighting for anything. You're not fighting for, the armies of today are not fighting for what they did in Israel. Israel? Yeah, I can stumble over words. They're not fighting for God. They're fighting for men, people. And yes, I'm thankful that I live in a country that we have a short period of time borrowed freedom that is basically given it to us on lease. What we have here is freedom, and it can be taken away at any time. We're not too far from it. I know a lot of people reference Reagan, I think, and I can't remember how he said it, but he's basically 2 generations or something away from complete collapse. Although Reagan was also the first guy to bring the Pope to this country, so it's kind of interesting there. Sorry, throat's getting dry there from drinking, so I'm going to drink some water. Now, again, all of what I'm saying, I don't want to be misunderstood. It's not an attack on people, but I wonder if we really look at things and like, hey, wait a minute. Should I be yoked with the government when I'm a born-again Christian and I'm not for the government? Because we're supposed to also take over the government if it's not for the people anymore. Clearly, our government overall is not for the people and hasn't been for the people for quite a long time. I make the argument that the downfall of this country started in 1776. I know people are like, whoa, did you just say what I think you said? Yes. Listen, I have a colonial flag over there on my wall, and I have, that was from, that time frame, 16 stars, and I have the Civil War one over there. And I have them there and to remember and to keep me memorized. I'm trying to think of the right word. To keep reminding myself of freedom for what? We have a freedom from England, absolutely. But we just went into a whole different slavery. And I'm not talking about blacks in slavery with Civil War. That's a whole other thing that Roman Catholic Church started. Well, the Atlantic slave trade route, obviously they started that. That's obviously clear. And the rat lines. Don't forget the rat lines. World War II, that was theirs too. And Vietnam. List can go on. But it reminds me of like what happened. Because we came to this country, right? Well, we didn't come, you and I. My ancestors didn't come here during that time frame. I think my wife does have someone. I think my wife has a family member that was on the Mayflower. I don't. Dad called me into his room today and showed me the first unmanned helicopter on Fox News, of course. And he was just amazing. Could hardly believe it. Yeah. Yeah. Our fathers are quite the trip. Older people are a trip sometimes, aren't they? They're interesting folks. I mean, yours could be the same person he's always been, but my father is the same, but he's weird, even more off the wall than he used to be. And I'll tell you, when they need something, they need it now. They need it now. My wife will, this is not a cell phone that I'm holding up. It's not a, oh man, the battery fell out of that thing. It looks like a flip top, but it's not. It's actually a little mini scale there. I weigh pennies on this. Me and my boys like to get pennies, and we like to go through them as a family. Well, my two, usually all three, two of us, sometimes three of us. But anyways, he'll come out with his phone or his laptop to my wife, and then she's got to call me, and he'll really put up in her face and go, "I need this fixed," and they need it now. Everything's an emergency. And I was making the joke, and I'm not being mean making the joke. I love the fact that we have the ability to take care of our elder because it's important. Our mother or father, and obviously my mother has been gone for quite a while. But they become almost like children again. And the old saying's true. They do. They really do. Oh, yeah, now. True, as the youngest say that, yeah. I'm like, everything's an emergency. Did you hear this? Did you see that? Did you know? I'm like, and weather. I know it's a cliche, but I didn't know it was a real thing until I actually had to deal with my dad when he lived with us. And you hear the stories about how old people love the weather. He loves the weather. Oddly enough, my 11-year-old loves the weather too, likes to know what's going on. But he is just, everything's a problem. Yep. So you have no idea. So last night I'm out here and I'm working on Westcott and Hort still. I got the paper here. What was I working on? It might have been 2:7. I think 1 Timothy 2:7. That might have been what I was working on last night for the Westcott. Yeah, I'm not even close to Timothy yet. But I'm working on that. My wife calls me and she called me on the phone. She says, "Hey, are you busy right now?" And the way she said it, I'm like, "What is going on?" It's kind of odd. And I says, "No, I guess not. Working on the Westcott stuff." And she goes, "So, Dad need you?" So I'm like, "All right." So I get in the house to see my dad. He's having a problem with his laptop computer. He can't seem to log in, and he was about to walk all the way out here in the dark, all the way out to the pod shed so he can get help for the laptop. I'm like, you know what? Why come all the way out? Just call. Send one of the boys or something out here. But it's an emergency right now. But yeah. But I think what that old saying will happen when we talk about you're going to miss it when it's gone. It's kind of like I'd say about my mother every year. She'd call on my birthday. Every single year at the exact same time that I was born and call me and wish me happy birthday. And if she couldn't get a hold of me, she'd be calling me later on that night because if I could have been working, if I was working, she'd be calling me. And you go through a period of time where you wish your mom was still around to do that. It drove you crazy. It drove you nuts, but then you miss that. We use walkie-talkies at my house. Huh. That's an interesting. Well, you don't have real good phone service, do you, where you are? And I can't wait to get rid of my cell phone one day. That's gonna be awesome. Um, but I work, so those of us who do work for a living kind of need our cell phone. Um, Unfortunately, everything relies on that these days. But we're looking to, if we're here long enough, um, it'll disappear. And I'm okay with that. Um, but they do make some. They do make some cool walkie talkies. Great idea. Bad service here. Yeah. Um, they make. Oh, I've heard this commercial that they make this walkie talkie that you can basically stand in Massachusetts and talk to a guy out in California. You can be standing down in Florida and or talk to somebody in Tennessee, but talk to somebody in Canada. It's got this incredible long range. I thought about those actually for emergency situations. Weather can get real bad, and the phone service can get real bad in certain areas. Like Telco Plains is a perfect example. Telco up on Decatur Mountain, up in Decatur, Spring City area. You never know where. Probably even parts of Cookville. Ham radio. Interesting you should mention that. Apparently, I didn't know you had to get a license for this stuff. I am very much it. So I thought about this, and when this channel, when I first had this channel, it was called Everyday Man of God Ministries. And then I thought I was being too precocious, like I was too uppity, and I was like, oh, this is all about me. So I didn't change it to the Born Again Christian Network or the BAC Network, because I believe there should be an underground Christianity, which now people do talk about the underground. But I talked about this a long time ago, and I wanted, meeting people, and we get and we know each other, we create a network. And then I thought to myself, what about radio, ham radio? You're able to contact other people and get a radio set up and stuff like that. So that is something that is on my list to do when things go bad and there's no internet, there's no phones, and we have those outages, some on purpose, that happen, like the Verizon outage. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I have my questions. Anything over 6 watts, I believe. You need a license for. Yeah, it's something I want to look into, because I think it would be fantastic. I really think about it. And they did this back in the day. A lot, I don't want to say just like CB radios with truckers back in the day, but you can literally talk to somebody further away. I mean, across the world will take a certain type of frequency, but shut up. I don't mean to actually shut up. Do you really? Wow. You and I are going to have some conversations, because that is something I think would be very beneficial. I think, because I think we're not, obviously we're pre-trip, we know that, but I do think there are going to be some times that we go through that there's going to be some issues, and I think persecution will be coming, but not at a grand scale like they will during the tribulation. But there'll be some. Why am I opening this? I was opening up a water bottle, but I still haven't finished my water over here. Yes, sir. He says, yes, sir. And I know that was popular in the 50s, the 60s, and I'd like to really get into that, and to be able to have communications that are less monitored. Yes, I know the FCC is involved with it, but they seem to be less monitored. But that's definitely something I'd like to get into. It's almost like, instead of FaceTiming someone, I think iPhones have FaceTime, and I think Androids have like Dual Galaxy or something like that. I forget what they're called. I still have a Cobra CB radio and high and low channels, just not hooked up in my truck right now. I picked one up at a Salvation Army one time, and with all full intentions of trying to figure out how to hook it up in the truck and get it going. Because which truck did I have then? I'm not sure if I had my Ford F-150 or if I had my Chevy 1500. I'm not sure which one I had, but I had one of the two. But I thought about it, but I never ended up doing it. So, but a lot of guys down here in Tennessee, not channels but bands, yeah. A lot of people in rural country in the mountains do have a lot of those. You see them antennas on their trucks, but that is something that I want to get into. Not so much the CB, uh, the walkie-talkie thing is very interesting, but having the ham radio. So when I finish this whole what I like to call pod shed, and it's roughly I think 12 by 16. I don't think it's that big, but I'll slowly work on it piece by piece. I mean, I added decorations. You know, I put my round earth on there to drive people crazy. I'm still looking for a flat earth, but I guess you couldn't see it if I put it up there. So maybe I'll buy something that looks like a coaster and put it up on the wall so I can have flat earth and round earth next to each other, just to make it fun and confusing. Sometimes I like to have a little humor. But yeah, I think that would be fun because again, ham radio is the audio version of FaceTime and Dual. I think it's called on Androids. It's the same thing, just not fast time. Not fast time. It's not FaceTime. So that's something I think would be really interesting to do because I do believe that there'll come a time where some of this will go through period shutoffs. Like there'll be some weird outages, and all of a sudden we have no YouTube. We don't have, like I said earlier, this stuff. So to get and speak to people, fellow Christians out there, part of this was in my book, in a book that I was writing, but I didn't finish it. So I don't know if I'll get back to it because I think there was a movie kind of based on it now, or a TV show on I saw a commercial for it on the Angel Studios. Sometime it was some sort of apocalyptic show. I have not seen it yet. Well, how would I see it? You have to pay for Angel Studios, so I won't be seeing it anytime soon. But it's based on Christians finding each other along the way. No fishes or anything like that drawn in the sand. Control the people by controlling the info. Yeah, and that's the thing. But I don't think they'll be looking at ham radio as quickly as they will be other things. I don't know. I could be wrong, but used it high-low for hunting mostly, but did have one in my freight shaker and Mac before selling my business. It was kind of funny. The first time I ever really came across CB radios was not in a cop car, was not in a cruiser. It was my brother-in-law, who was a truck driver. I went out with him a couple times when I was like 12 or 13 years old. He's a long haul driver, but he didn't take me on long hauls. He would take me out to New York, basically. We did a lot of New York. We were down to the Bronx, Harlem. We're in the bad parts. I still remember coming into Bronx. I don't know what that highway is. We were coming in. It's daylight, and there's a cop ahead of us. And on the side of the road, they are literally stripping a car on the side of the road. And the cop just keeps going. I'm like, wow. That was my first experience in Bronx. I went there twice on a run. Went to Harlem as well with him. Probably not the best place to bring a kid, but you know. But as Christians, I think there's going to have to be some sort of networking to be able to reach other Christians as time goes on. I know some of them we don't completely love YouTube, but it is an opportunity to reach out to others and find other like-minded individuals. So that's a good thing as well. But it is monitored too, again. So you can be banned anything. I know that I've had myself taken down twice. Got in trouble. Obviously, it was to do with the whole virus thing. I still remember. I think I reposted one under a different name and it got through just fine. But I was actually living in Connecticut in the beginning of COVID. And can you say that word, or are we supposed to still say ouchie or whatever? But we were living in Connecticut, and all I was doing was actually posting the actual numbers from the state of Connecticut. It was their numbers. Everything was 100% their numbers. All I did was, break down percentages. I'm a numbers guy. I love inventory numbers, and I'm just breaking down percentages and percentage changes and stuff like that. And they got me for misinformation. So I did that one. I appealed and said, I appreciate you trying to take my video down, but respectfully, I would like you to take the state of Connecticut's numbers down because those are the numbers that I use. So I was misinformed by the state of Connecticut. So if you could ban their YouTube channel for misinformation. Clearly, I never got a response from YouTube back on that one. So I did my little time, my little YouTube prison time there, and was back on after my time was up. Well, it's funny how that goes, isn't it? They don't really listen to things, but anyways, I'll probably be banned again for something, and who knows? Well, just if I put hashtag KJV in there or Texas Receptus or anything like that, bet you that's going to get pulled down the road. I bet you that's a possibility, or blocked, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's a phrase. Shadow banning. Shadow banning. Not really banning you, but kind of stopping your stuff from going out there. I think it probably still happens now. We just don't know it. Because my numbers fluctuate sometimes. It's just kind of weird. Lately, they've been kind of steady. They're pretty much the same. Probably 100 to 250 views or whatever, right in that area. We'll see. So another, I'll be making some, I think, Christmas stuff. Yep, that's right. You heard me. Christmas is gone, but I think it's something I want to continue to talk about. There are a lot of people who are not in church buildings, right? And they're King James people, and that's fine. I'm not opposed to that at all. But they're pro Christmas. They'll tell me what an abomination. And again, so this is what you have to understand with making a stand for churches not in the Bible. Okay, well, let's use that thought process. Christmas is not in the Bible. You celebrate Christmas, and I know this for a long time. It took us a while to get to that point, so I'm just as guilty for years myself. I'm making excuses for it, but if church is not in the Bible, and you don't go to a church building, and Christmas is not in the Bible, but you celebrate it, you promote it, is that or is that not hypocrisy? I was going to do a video. I'm still going to do a video. But would that not be considered hypocrisy? I'm just asking. Because if we stay on the fact that something's not in the Bible, and I'm not arguing that point, but there are things that are not in the Bible. Why would we celebrate Christmas and you don't go to a church building? And you all know I don't celebrate Christmas. And I'm not a JW or a Seventh Day or whatever, whoever doesn't celebrate these days. I don't know. It seems like an odd thing, doesn't it? Now, some people are just, and I'm referring to those who are anti-church building. I'm not just talking about the other. Preaching or posting the gospel will be outlawed. Look at England on social media and probably in the public square if we live long enough. It's a coming, brother. Oh, I absolutely 100% agree. That's why I had the one conversation a while ago with my two boys that maybe it happens. And I'm not looking to be a martyr. I think it's a fool. I think it's foolish to want to be a martyr, to desire to be a martyr. I just desire to speak the truth. Whatever happens, happens. I'm not going to go out looking to get my head cut off somewhere. But I'm not going to run from the truth as well. Some people pretend that they won't. Oh, I can't wait. I'm going to stand up for God, and I can't wait. You can't wait. I believe most of the martyrs, if we read about them, I still got to get the original one, weren't trying to go out of their way to be executed. But they were killed for following Christ. They were killed because they followed Christ. They weren't killed because they wanted to be martyrs. I think, to me, that's a misunderstanding. I think people do that. And we got some people out there who go on and on about how they're gonna be warriors for God, and they'll kill for God. Well, I'm not talking about Islam or the Catholic Crusades, but some people have that frame thought. Baptists do too. A lot of people have this frame mind. that they can't wait. I just don't understand that. Now, there's a difference between, I can't wait to be martyred and killed for Jesus, as opposed to, yeah, I'll lose my life. I'll lose. Thank you. Yes. Amen. Tyndale ran for years. He didn't desire martyrdom. Exactly. And Tyndale wasn't running because he was a scared little puppy. Tyndale ran because he wasn't man enough to stand up to these people and stand on the word of God. No, he was still trying to get things done. It's like if I have 1 million Bibles, wouldn't that be awesome, by the way, if I had 1 million Bibles to distribute? I'm just saying that would be pretty awesome. So if I had 1 million Bibles and I got 100,000 of them out there, but I got more, but somebody's on my tail, the cops, the feds, they're on my tail. They want me dead. They want me in prison, whatever it may be. I'm going to try to run from them, and I'm going to try to elude them because I'm going to try to get rid of every single one of those Bibles in every single hand I can. I'm not going to stop and go, yes, you caught me. I'm going to die for Jesus. All right. No. Will I die for God? Yes. Am I going to run full force into being killed? No. Because we keep on preaching the word of God as far as we can until they get us and we have no choice, and then we're killed. So be it. I would like to die before I become a martyr. I don't want to become a martyr, so hopefully I don't have to become one. But again, go for it. I don't understand. I never understand what this misplaced zeal. Thank you, brother. This misplaced zeal is. What are you doing? Stop trying to prove to the world you're a tough guy and you're going to take and go down. Again, I have a martial arts background. Before you get excited, why do I have that? Because I got it. Doesn't make me tough. None of that does. Whether you know martial arts of any kind, Krav Maga, it doesn't matter, Shaolin Kung Fu, Jiu-Jitsu, whatever it may be, that is not toughness. I was supposed to have a black belt, but I wasn't going to pay that kind of money to go for the testing in Boston, so no thanks. But that's not the toughness we need. See, the physical tough people will not make it because they're spiritually weak. Screaming all the time, although I'm being loud right now, screaming about how tough they are and what they're going to do and how they're going to go about it. Why? Trying to look a certain way to people. So maybe they follow you or they hit the like button or they subscribe to your channel. I'm not saying I don't want anybody to subscribe to my channel or watch me. I'm not saying that. That's not my point. There's too many people putting on these airs of something that either is not good or things that are not good. Now that's a real proper public school education sentence if I ever heard one. But there are people who want to look a certain way to a certain crowd. I'll probably alienate more King James people, false King James people, than I will bringing them in, unfortunately. Because as the old saying goes, there's wolves among us in sheep's clothing. And sometimes it's the ones telling you about wolves in sheep's clothing. And that's the beauty of that, how they do that. And you're like, yeah, those are the wolves. Those are the wolves. Now, who was it that said basically if you keep calling someone else a racist, they won't notice you're a racist? I want to say it's Saul Alinsky, but I can't remember who it was. I might be not giving it to the right person to quote, but it's in the 70s, early 70s. That's what's going on. When you're the one who's doing the sinning or the harmful way of life, you keep attacking the other ones saying they're doing it. Or talking behind the scenes, spreading gossip. I know we talked about two people a while ago. Really probably shouldn't have been doing that. Maybe not. Depends. But that's what happens. So to me, I'm always weary of those type of people, certain types of people who are more focused on exposing wolves in sheep's clothing when indeed sometimes they are that wolf. It's a little game they like to play. Yes, it might be considered psychological, but it does exist. And then there are men who stand at the corner down in Etowah just holding up a sign because he truly is trying to tell you to repent before it's too late. And he means that with all his heart. And he didn't need Instagram, doesn't need TikTok. He's not some crazy guy who's directing traffic and, you know, the old school standing on a soapbox and he's lost his mind and the end's here, the end is here. That's not what I'm talking about. He's just some guy, which more and more I talk about that, I'm going to make the time to stop and talk to him eventually. Well, when the good weather hits. I don't ever see him in the cold weather. Can't blame him. You know, can get cold, can get 30 degrees. He doesn't want to be out there. I get it. I'll make that time. But there's a man who's just quietly doing it. And he's reaching a lot of people. If you think about this, he probably reaches more people than I do. What do I average 100 to 300 views maybe on my videos? He's probably getting 100 to 300 cars a day driving up and down that road. So people seeing his sign, they're getting the word right there. Repent. Yes, I'm going to say he's doing a good work, so someone can accuse me of work salvation. They read too much into when you say that word work. But I'll continue doing it. We all should be doing it. We all have a part to play. That's why I renamed my book, and basically my name is Brother, because that's what we are. We're brothers and sisters in Christ. Well, there's not a sister among us at the moment in the comments. Maybe one's watching, or maybe one will down the road. We do have some sisters in Christ, and I hope they are doing well. Sister Esther sometimes likes to pop in. There's a couple sisters that used to come in. They don't as much, and that's okay. I hope they're doing well. They'll always be sisters. But okay, I guess I kind of went really on about that, so I apologize. I didn't mean to go on too much of a tangent, I guess you could say there. See, I was sick last week, and now I'm trying to catch up for a whole Friday I lost of, you know, going on and on. So we need ham radio. I think that's where we were, right? Ham radio. Is that where the jumping off point was there that we went on to that? I just got to speak your mind and speak the truth and through the way we see it in the Bible. That's important. So that's, again, do I hate anybody who celebrates Christmas? No, but can we come to think about this and have this discussion and civilly ask those simple questions? You know, why do you not believe in going to a church building, but you're okay with Christmas? Because neither one are in the Bible. Yes, people are going to say, well, there's no left behind. No, but there's a catching away. There's no word, the Bible doesn't say Trinity. No, but there's a Godhead, 3. No, I'm not trying to go down this theological conversation down Godhead and Trinity and catching away and left behind. That's not my point. My point is, but what you can't find is another terminology for Christmas. Well, this actually means Christmas in the Bible. It doesn't say Christmas, but this says it. No, it doesn't. What is the old word for Mass? Isn't it basically associated with death? I know my kids don't care about Christmas at all, the whole idea of it. In fact, they think it's nuts. They really do. Not because we try to indoctrinate them to hate Christmas or hate people with Christmas or do Christmas. What's the point? What does that teach all those kids who were not well behaved all year but still get Christmas presents? Value's gone there, isn't it? Putting pine trees. Did I hear this, or I'm either heard this somewhere or I'm making this up myself. I'm not sure. I'm going to assume I heard it somewhere. Sometimes we hear something in passing, and then we think we came up with it, and it turns out you heard it somewhere else. But, yeah, name any other time of the year you put a tree up in your house to glorify God. If you believe it does, then why not have one in your house all year? Oh, that's silly, Stephen. Well, there's a lot of silly things we could talk about that seem simple on the surface, but when you have to dig deeper and understand, really. And yes, there are churches that are not JW and not Seventh Day and all that don't celebrate Christmas. I have heard this. I'm going to be doing a deeper dive and digging to see if there actually are any around our area. And again, we don't go to church. Well, I won't be going to church this week, and I didn't go last week either. I didn't go to a church building last week either. But I've said this before, both sides got it right. You know, the anti-church building people have a good point. Oh, it's all just a, you know, it's a country club. And it's just everybody getting together. There ain't nothing really going on there, and they're all sitting in a lot of yeah. But the other part they fail to see is, well, we need to have a fellowship. We have a fellowship. Well, we can have it only online. Okay, well, right now, I can almost consider this church because we're having fellowship all together on a Friday. I'm not saying it is a church. It is church. I'm just saying we start getting to these things that I think when people say one thing, they're not realizing they're exposing themselves or opening themselves up to a whole different conversation. By the way, Hilly Billy from Nick has been really sick. I once thought him an SDA, but I'm not sure anymore. Anywho, I do believe him a brother in Christ and ask prayers for a soon recovery. So I clicked on his channel. I think he sent me the link. Or no, he said where to find him. And so he follows all the Jewish laws. He seems to be following all the Jewish laws. So I thought that was interesting. He seems to be living in Old Testament. I only saw a couple things from him briefly. He was doing the whole lighting up the menorah every day and doing all those. He seems to be into celebrating all of the feasts of that time frame. And I don't believe in that whatsoever. I don't believe that's biblical at all. I think those were done away with. I know that gets me into hot water, but I believe they are all done. A lot of that is really done away with. Because then you have to really get down, when it started, the time frame. We can have arguments about calendars and this and that and the other. But I don't know if he's a Seventh Day or not. I have no idea. I'll probably try to pop in. I still am amazed at that night that he used foul language when he cursed. That actually really surprised me. It took me off guard. And I might have said something about it. I think I made a comment. I'm not sure, but I might have. I'm pretty sure I said something. And I don't usually make a lot of comments. I'll make a couple of comments here and there. I was watching actually Nick tonight for a brief time while I was doing some other stuff, getting ready for tonight. I didn't get to really watch much of them. I might go back and watch them. I don't know. But yeah, I still remember that. The foul language. I got thrown off by it. Anyways, just kind of reminds me of those Christians who aren't completely Christians and they're just swearing. But again, it's one moment in time. We all say something off that we probably shouldn't. Brother by Design's not here this evening, but I think it's pretty much. I think he is the one that called me out on using a word that's a replacement of word, and I'm okay, by the way, with him calling me out 100% because he was right. I did use a word that could be put in place of what would have been a swear word to try to make it not a swear word, and that's the thing. See, that's the thing about born again Christians. You need to be open to that and say, hey, you know what? You're right. Instead of being offended and then you argue, ban somebody, delete their comment, and all this nonsense. Yes, he did celebrate Purim this year for the first time. And you did say something about his usage of the other word for donkey. So I did. All right. Yeah. I wasn't trying to create a problem or issue, but it was almost like an instant reflex when I'm like, whoa, hey, whoa. Bro, can't be We can't let ourselves sink to that level. And I'm not saying we all don't sometimes get angry or allow ourselves to angry, but that should mean one of us has to step in and go, whoa, hey. I know that guy's really on your nerves, and he's probably on the last one, but we still got to take that high road. I tell the kids all the time, the high road is the hardest road you're ever going to travel, but you got to take that high road. I mean, there are times that you might detour and dip down a little bit, but you got to get back up on that high road and keep on rolling. But we need to be there for one another and to do it with love. I think I've talked about this before, is the fact that we're so interested in calling someone out with no love behind what we're doing. It's more of a gotcha or, oh, I'm better than you because I wouldn't have done that. There's no love from our rebuking. As I said, we love to rebuke. People love to rebuke, but they don't like to exhort. Exhortation is missing. But it's just, I think it's important. I think it's important for us to be there for one another and bring it to our attention. Go, hey, I personally don't think that was the right thing to say, you know. Nick recently used a word that caught me off guard, and I almost said something too. Oh, did he? Oh, I must not have caught it. I'm pretty sure I would have said something. Maybe I wouldn't have, but I'm pretty sure I would have. Knowing my personality, I probably would have. I would have said something politely. Yeah. He celebrates Christmas, I think, too. I'm pretty sure. Or no, was it Christmas he was going to celebrate? He had to get off because he was going to celebrate Christmas with family or something. So I don't know if he celebrates Christmas or had to go to a family event that was Christmas related. I'm not quite sure. But that doesn't surprise me. I don't mean that negatively. It doesn't surprise me if he did. Yes, he does. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I'm not throwing shade at him. I'm not calling him out and calling him a fake and a false and a loser and all this other kind of stuff. He's a hypocrite or a heretic or whatever. I wish. I mean, he did that deep study on Easter. Supposedly, I've never watched his study on Easter. I'm probably gonna have some disagreements with that. Well, part of it, I guess. Who knows? But yeah, I'm surprised he's a man of his studying and his researching hasn't done that research, because you would think if he had done that research, but again, it's a fleshly holiday too. It's so ingrained in us. And it's more of a modern thing anyway, especially here in America. Of course, in Australia, one of the first religions over there was Catholic. In fact, they had same thing with Hawaii. Australia had briefly Presbyterians. I think Australia's first churches, or first people got there were Presbyterians, but then really turned Catholic. After that, the kind of like the Roman Catholic Church took over. Same thing in Hawaii. Same thing. I think there was a queen of the Hawaiian Islands at one point, and she was Methodist or Unitarian Christian or something like that. And then the son who became the king, he converted to Christianity, but it was Catholic. He was a Roman Catholic, so they've had a lot of control at that point. In fact, when the island was basically sold to America, I think the Roman Catholic Church and the monarchy there was Roman Catholic. So there you go on that one. So in this country, they were escaping all of that type of stuff, and they weren't trying to have Christmas and stuff. Remember, we talked about this before a long time ago. They were absolutely opposed to any of that. They would have looked you dead in the eye and like, you're a Roman Catholic. That was created by them, and I'm pretty sure they knew more than we did at that time. They were more into what was going down than we were. I don't think, and this is no offense to me or Nick or anybody, but I bet you they were more learned than we are. And I'm not throwing shade at anybody. I'm just saying I really believe that. Just like I always say that our great grandparents were harder workers than we could ever imagine being, because they had to go through more. They listen, truck drivers in the 70s and 80s are tougher than the truck drivers of the 2020s. You know, so the farmers, I think, probably tougher in the 1880s and 1980s. And that's not to say that there's a different level of toughness. They didn't have the modern stuff that they have. Nate Marino, a.k.a. Sound the Battle Cries, has some good vids on Christmas, Christmas and Easter. Holds to the position as we do. I'll definitely look at it. Well, I was going to look at it no matter what, but yeah, no, I'm definitely going to look into it. And they're on your channel, on your playlist. So I'll find them on your playlist. I'll type them in separately, but I'll also see if I can see them on your playlist first, and then whatever they don't have, I'll find it separately and go from there. Whatever you don't have on your playlist, I'll go find them somewhere on the YouTube there. But yeah, I just remember the first again, I do a lot of studying, a lot of different things, and sometimes I forget, and sometimes I mix things. Sometimes I'm like, wait, oh, that belongs to that, and that belongs to that. But I think it's 1868 was the first time a church even had a Christmas tree inside the building. It was after the Civil War when this became a thing. But that's because you had the German immigrants who were coming in at that time frame. Germans could be blamed for a lot of things, believe it or not. Sad. German rationalism that led to a lot of the modern Bibles of today. When you go through Leipzig University or Stuttgart University, and a lot of those, there's another one I can't think of off the top of my head, but that led to a lot of things that led to the Oxford movement, to Westcott and Hort, Tischendorf, a lot of that stuff there. And a lot of it was influenced by Friedrich, I can't think of his name, Friedrich something or other, a German rationalist guy himself. So you have that comes over into Germany, and the Germans create the whole Christmas style of things that came from the Catholic Church, which is the Lutherans. The Lutherans are really the ones who brought it into America through the German immigrants, which Lutherans are basically akin to Roman Catholics as far as I'm concerned. And that's why they have it here. Because before that, you wouldn't have caught anybody celebrating Christmas. It just wasn't happening. Listen, wedding rings weren't even a thing as well. Yeah, they come from the Roman Empire, from my understanding, because they think that finger was the blood vessel that led to the heart. But rings weren't even really a big thing. And John Quincy Adams, there's no marriage certificate, so to speak. And not because they were not Christians or Christians. That was just not a thing. So when people talk about marriage covertures and stuff like that, which I think are an awesome thing, I'm fine with those. I don't got an issue with that at all. Because we were married twice. We were married in the eyes of God first. We were not married by the government and the state. That came after, my wife and I. So we were married with no wedding rings. We made a vow to each other and a vow to God. And that's what we did first. So it wasn't, I think, a month or two later, we went to do the whole down at the City Hall thing and that. Although some people will get on me and go, well, you're not a real KJV person. Give me a break. Meanwhile, you got them committing all types of biblical sins. But, just saying. So let's be careful when we go down that path. Was it 68? For some reason I thought it was 1838. Okay. You know what, brother? I am willing to be proven wrong. Let me check. Let me just type it in real fast. The first Christmas. Well, the first Christmas and the first Christmas tree in a church might be two different things. I'm not sure. The first Christmas in America. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good keyword to put in. The origins of Christmas. Let's see. Christmas in the United States. I'll just click on that one, see what happens. Christmas in the United States. It was outlawed in a lot of places in America. It's not giving me any. Oh, wait. By the late 1800s, Christmas transformed from a forbidden feast into one of America's most cherished and economically impactful holidays. Only that. And the economy, economics. It doesn't say on that one. This is in the 90s. Oh, wait, hold on. Become a national holiday. It became a national holiday in 1870. Yeah, after American Revolution, Christmas was not a thing. It was seen as an English custom. Where did the Puritans, Pilgrims run from, that area? But let's see. That doesn't have it. I'm trying to find the date. Let's see. Old Farmer's Almanac. Let's see what this says. Discover the first Christmas card. I don't care about the first Christmas card. First Christmas card was printed in 1843 in England. Was printed in London, England in 1843. So got kind of a starting point there. I have a lot of the stuff in some other files. Where's my other? Let's see. Yeah, I got some stuff in here. There's a binder I have here of some stuff here, talking about December 25th and Clement of Alexandria and things of that nature, which that'll go into a book or longer videos. I'm not finding. I'm scrolling through. I'll spend all night scrolling through. Oh, you got another thing I just missed there. And Halloween was never celebrated in the U.S. until the 20th century. Yeah, I'm not sure when that actually, the first date of that was. I never really got into studying Halloween because, I don't think there are any Christians, any real Christians are confused by that. I think some Christians on the fence are confused about Christmas, or they don't want to accept that their flesh is what celebrates it. But Halloween, I mean, come on. And yeah, I know we have a lot of Halloween trunk or treats that happen. These are not real churches. These are not biblical churches. They're not Christians. They're usually non-denominations, or those charismatic ones, or the fake evangelical ones. Stuff of that nature. Mega churches and things of that nonsense. I would tell you that one mega church that I did go to, I want to say it was on Silver Street or Sliver Street or something like that in Connecticut. I can't remember where. My wife might remember where it is. But we went there, and I didn't want to go to a mega church at all, but I was curious what it'd be like in there. So we went, and they were talking about don't forget to wear your costumes and stuff like that. And you asked my wife, we got up at that very moment where we walked straight out the door. You're gonna have a Halloween party? It's not a Halloween party. It's to have kids to do something on Halloween so they won't feel left out of all the candy. What are you talking about? To me, that reminds me of, we don't really celebrate Christmas. We just think it's a great time for kids to, or even just witness to people. And I know people mean well. I'm not mocking anyone, I promise you. But I know that they mean well. I just wish they realize that, no, you've been indoctrinated with that. And it's hard to get out of indoctrination sometimes. I totally understand that. And I love any brother or sister who is fighting that right now. I know that you question it and you want to get out of it. And I'm with you, man. I'm with you. There are people out there who are King James Bible-believing Christians who are with you, or even part-time Texas Receptus that are with you. But I can't find it. And yeah, I know people like to have their Christmas, but they don't realize it wasn't a thing. It was not celebrated. It was not celebrated till the Roman Catholic Church. That is who I just, and that's the other thing. You hate the Roman Catholic Church. You're so anti the Pope and so anti the Vatican, yet you celebrate their holiday. And at that point, can you be anti-Roman Catholic or anti-Vatican and still celebrate their holiday? I think it's something to think about. I'm gonna put something else in there. What's this? What is this? Search assistant? Oh, Google's got one of them search assistant things that can find it. I had the secretary of my old church go off on me for questioning them celebrating Fall Festival on October 3rd. Yeah, I've seen those too. And you got these. Some do it by season. I see churches like, they'll put out fall into church, type of thing, playing out the word fall. I'm like, okay. But yeah. But they want to do something during that time. Why? We don't pretend. We don't have, we don't have special candy that night. We don't do that. We don't do none of that. And my boys aren't awkward or weird because they don't celebrate Christmas and Halloween. And, oh, no. And they're homeschooled. That's another thing. Oh, they have to go to school because they have to do what all the other kids are doing. And unfortunately, yes, I know Christians have to send their kids to school. They have no choice. Both parents are working. So I'm not knocking them for that. if they had a choice, I think 99% of born again Christians would not have the kids in school if they could not have them there. I fully believe that. But unfortunately, things happen in this world. Although someone will attack them all. If you're a real born again Christian, you would just quit your job and stay at home and never go. Come on, man. Unfortunately, bad things happen to people along the way, and it's just the way it is. You can't hate everybody for it. There are people who do that. And they'll attack you. They'll find something that they think is some sort of weakness that they can go in and exploit. And then they end up exposing themselves as frauds, unfortunately. This thing's not giving me anything. I'm trying to find. I mean, it's been said that they celebrated briefly in colonial times, but it was not a thing. It was forbidden, basically. A forbidden feast is what that other thing said. And that's truly what it was. People think they did. Puritans banned it. I can tell you that. Let's see. Here's one. Let's see. Influence of European traditions. And again, influence of European traditions because where does Christmas come from? Germany through England. Again, German influence. Well, the Christmas tree. That's what I was thinking about earlier. German influences the Christmas tree was a German. Wasn't until the 19th century the Christmas tree gained widespread popularity. By the 1850s, Christmas trees were popping up in homes across the country. So that right there, the 1850s. So, Brother Calvin, you might be more right than I am. It might have been 1838, not 1868. Well, I feel like it could have been the first time of church, though. First Christmas tree. Why is that not? It's not sudden mind. Oh, something happened there. The first Christmas tree in a church. People are going to start tuning out and not wanting to watch. That's okay, though. The first Christmas tree in a church in America. I guess I could have put United States of America as well. Man, it's not giving me. Oh. I think we got something here. The first Christmas tree was in a Lutheran church in 1851. Yeah, looks like it was this particular article says 1851. It was in, it says on the site once stood the original Zion Lutheran Church. Zion is Zion, Illinois. There's a city called Zion, Illinois, which was named that by a guy named Dowd. Dowd actually was a precursor to Pentecostal. What is his first name? Harry Dowd? Oh, Dowd, I think is his last name. He was one of the ones who thought he was Elijah and stuff like that, dressed like it. He actually was a Congregationalist one time in England. It wasn't until he went to, I keep forgetting to ask Brother Nick about this. He actually went to Australia where he fell under some kind of weirdo over there, like a cult guy who's into this all, where we get Pentecostalism. So really kind of think about it. Pentecostalism goes through what? Frank Parham and Zuzu Street, and then it goes back into that even goes further back into like Amy Semple McPherson, that early movement. It goes into you got to go all the way back to Dowd, and then you got to go. And Dowd was a Methodist as well. He's a Congregationalist and a Methodist, but he was in Australia, and that's where he started to do what he was doing because he went to work for his uncle, I think, at a leather shop in Australia, and that's when he then I can't remember the name of the guy in Australia, but he was a well-known type of cult tent type of what we think of charismatics and weirdos and tongues and all kinds of stuff. So tongues existed we know tongues existed, not biblical tongues. We know biblical tongues existed, but the gibberish type of tongues that's false. We understand Kundalini spirit. We know that the when we go into Hinduism and stuff like that, that's where we get that from. But Dowd was a precursor of that, and that came from a guy in Australia. I don't know where that guy got it to. That's what Zion. I don't know why Zion just made me think of that, but Lutheran Church, Catholic. So that's the information I see in this article is 1851. So that's what I got out of that. Yeah, most people in colonial times still knew their history. Yeah, and also knew it was just a form of the Roman celebration of Saturday. Yeah, and say okay. So there's an argument with the Saturnalia. I was watching one guy, trying to think of who it was, but he was trying to talk about Michael Hessler. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong on his name. Michael Heisler. He was talking about, that's false. Christmas goes back to Aurelia, who in his time. So back in the Aurelian was the emperor at that time, and that was what 270, 280, 260, right around that area. But that's when but he created Heisler. So you've heard of this guy? Never heard of this guy, but I put him on my playlist a long time ago because I wanted to listen to what he had to say for Christmas. I love to listen to what they say, so I can basically prove it in scripture and prove where they're wrong. But he's kind of a liar, kind of. What he does, he twists some things. But he was talking about December 25th was around before 325. Emperor Aurelian, but Emperor Aurelian came out 270. He created Sol Invictus, but then you have to see why he created Sol Invictus. Then you go back and he was saying something about Clement Alexandria, I think it was, who already had Christmas December 25th, which is absolutely false. He did not come up with 20. That was one of the dates he had thought of, but he actually had other dates as well, and based on other gods. I'm trying to. Obviously, we don't. Let's see, Bishop of Mark. I've talked about Bishop Mark of Rome. I don't know if I have it in this binder or another binder, but he had actually, the other dates that he had were based on the exact days of other gods that were celebrated as a deity on those time frames or those dates. So that's where he gets it wrong. So Clement of Alexandria was proposing those dates as well. Remember, there was no date. Nobody knew. They just assumed different things. I always stayed away from that guy. Well, that's good. I don't want to talk too ill of him because when I looked him up, apparently he's dead now. He died. So, if I criticize him, I feel kind of bad. But the first time he mentioned that Enoch was taken out of the... so there we go. Another one of those guys. Yeah, that's a red flag right there. But I put a few things on there about people who are... I like to see what they're using to scripturally to prove to celebrate Christmas. But then they get the same stupid thing. What about the people who believe in pre-trib? And they say catching away, or they say left behind, but it's not there. And they say Trinity. They play the same old games. It's kind of like we make fun of Democrats. We can do Republicans too, but they have the talking points, the bullet points. It's the same one. It's as if they were handed all the same script. It's like verbatim every time. Read the same thing, It's kind of like I saw a video a long time ago that showed a lot of news channels, and they're all like repeating the same exact words on every single news channel. It kind of reminds me of these guys that are so-called scholars. They repeat the same line over and over. It's like they don't even budge off of what they're saying. But yeah, so you get a lot of that. It's just falseness. It's more than just Aurelian and Sol Invictus and Clement, and you can get the whole Norse things, Chinese things, and just a lot of Hinduism type stuff. Just a lot of stuff there. So that's why I'm trying to work on that book because I think it's really important. The research is there. Easter, I haven't done a full deep dive to break down every century and stuff like that on Easter and why it was a mistake or not a mistake written in this text and not that text. Is it in the Peshitta Bible and all that? I've not done that. And some people I didn't know will say, aside that Muslim kid, like he was saying, Esther is actually Easter and all that. I have not. I'll be the first one to tell you, I have not deep dived that type of deep. I've dived enough into it to really accept that some of the Easter that we're doing is pagan in this world. I believe in the resurrection, obviously. What day? Resurrection. But yeah, I don't get into Jewish feasts or holidays or anything like that. I think that is long gone. We're not supposed to. I guess Jesus didn't fulfill those, and we don't have a New Testament, New Covenant, because we're still going to do everything in the old days. And don't people go, well, you follow the Levitical laws? If you don't eat pork, then you must be following Levitical law. Actually, pork is kind of really unhealthy for you, first of all. If it's not properly cooked, which is probably never properly cooked, unless you do it yourself, I guess. I don't eat pork for that sole reason alone, because of the bacteria that is in it. I'm good. I'm not eating pork, not because I'm a Muslim or doing this other thing or celebrating that feast, or not. Just I think it's unhealthy. At the end of the day, I do believe it's healthy. Now we eat a lot of chicken. We love chicken. I don't know why, but we certainly love our chicken. And yes, we love barbecue chicken. I can't help it. Not sure where we're going from that, but I know we were just talking about Christmas and that. But yeah, Book of Enoch. I don't have the Book of Enoch. There is one book that I can't wait to dive into eventually, and I don't see it right now. It was a Bible basically on Eve or Adam and Eve or something like. I do not know what I did with it. I'm talking to you, and I'm looking over there at the shelf. I got the Kabbalah over there. Somebody's like, "Oh no, you got the Kabbalah." I think it's for guys like me, or if you have a YouTube channel, you talk about this stuff, and I think it's important to know a couple of things just to be able to have that dialogue with somebody. History of Jews. I don't know where that book came from. I don't know. I'm looking over there, and I feel like I'm not looking at you right now. Yeah, I don't know where it is. I had bacon, egg, and cheese biscuits this morning. You know what? I like turkey bacon. You ever have turkey bacon? That's really good. We don't have it very often, but we do have it time to time. Turkey bacon is delicious. My wife makes me, if we have turkey sausage, she'll make that for me ahead of time for my breakfast. Homemade, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Homemade, of course. She makes me, it's like a, kind of like, the Thomas English muffin thing type of thing. Well, she makes the sourdough. It's because the fermentation of sourdough is good for your stomach. With scrambled eggs, of course, from the chickens out back, and the turkey sausage. Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes, but definitely I have that every morning. So she makes those, like she'll make them ahead of time 2 days in a row, and then she'll make another batch 3 days in a row. She won't make a whole week's worth because she doesn't want it to go bad in the refrigerator. But I really wish I could find that book because it was a really interesting book, and I don't know what I did with it. Oh, hold on. All right. This is not what I was looking for, but I wonder if it touches on Enoch in here. This is the Secret Books of the Egyptian Gnostics, an introduction to the recently discovered ancient manuscripts that rival the Dead Sea Scrolls in importance. I'm not sure. Simon Magus. Here's my thought about Simon Magus, by the way. I think I might have done a brief topic about it a long time ago, or Simon the Magician or whatever. I'm actually I didn't know he was in that book. I have books I haven't got to yet. I believe there's a possibility that he is the actual Simon Peter, the first pope. From my understanding, the emperor at that time made a statue of him because he showed he was of the gods because he levitated in the middle of the stadium. Now, I got to dig deeper into that, and I think that's where I'm pretty sure that's something that happened. Well, I don't know if the Lord did not levitate him. Books of Joe, it's with the Zoroaster. Oh, Seth, it's got a prophet of Seth, rather. I'm not seeing it. Oh, the Gospel of Thomas. We've heard that story before, the Gospel of Thomas. I'm not seeing what I thought I would find there. So it doesn't have the Book of Enoch in that particular Gnostic book. But there was another one, and I'm bummed that I can't find it because I kept on meaning to talk about it, and I can't find it now. Boy, I got Martin Luther stuff up there, the treaty. Got that. Oh man, I'm bummed. I should have had that ahead of time to talk about that. I keep forgetting about it. But it does that. It's a whole different style of the Bible. It has to do with Eve and other people. And I'm like, what in the world? The Garden of Eden Bible or something, I think it's called. Very bizarre. Very bizarre. I read like 2 seconds of it, but I'll get deeper into it at some point to go through that. But yeah, that threw me off. But a lot of those things are paganistic, obviously. But a lot of those things either directly or indirectly come out of the Catholic Church, and that's that strain. I mean, nothing good has ever came out about that. I'd like to hear more about Simon Magus being the first pope. That's complete news to me. So it's just my opinion. Now, it's just very rudimentary research I did a little while back. I wanted to get back into it, and I haven't got back into it, and I probably eventually will. But when I was looking into them, yes, possibly being. I'm just saying it is interesting. Especially since the emperor made a statue of him and treated him as a god because he levitated and he does these miracle things amongst the people at that point in time. I wonder if there's anything on the internet about this, but I don't know if it's going to be easy to find, but I know that I looked into it. Well, this is Goff's. Looks like, well, it's right here in this. Let's look at this real quick and let's find out the teachings of let's see, 329. Let's see, they have manuscripts in here from 329. But I was fascinated when I first did some research on it because one day I'm driving home from work. We were living in Stafford Springs, Connecticut at that time, and I was driving home, and I was really thinking about Simon, and I was thinking about Simon the magician, and I was thinking about that whole thing with Philip and everything, and I don't know why I couldn't shake it, and so I looked a little up on him, and when I found something about him having a statue of him at that point in time, I think he has a statue on the side of a church or something. Hold on, let's see, statue of Simon Magus. Statue. Oh, how about I spell statue properly? Apparently, I skipped a letter there. I'll put that T there. Statue of Simon Magus on church building. Okay. And I feel as if I might have done a brief video on this a while ago. I don't know. Let me do something here. Well, I can pull up two screens, I think. So hold on. Let me do a shared screen real quick for you. This is on the fly here. Let's pull up the share screen. Well, I got to enter it in. Entire screen. That side. Where is it? There we go. So right here. This supposedly is Simon Magus. I was looking for something different, but that's Simon Magus. I don't know what this is. Simon Magus is another statue here. What's this one? Here's another picture. Apparently, there's a lot of pictures around. I don't know what that says. It says Simon Magus. Oh, that's some kind of article or something. I don't know what that is. Yeah. So, yeah. So he's something going on there, and I think it's worthwhile to get into. I'll get into it at some point. Let's see. Let me go back. Let me type in something real quick. Simon, what happened there? Let's see. What in the world is going on with my computer here? Let me go back. Okay, we'll click that. So there you go. What is that? Simon Magus in the Catholic Church. Huh. All right, hold on. Look at that. Look at that. This is we're doing research real time here. And I got this off of Catholic Answers. I'm looking at Catholic Answers over here. Let's see. Simon is not mentioned again. Let's see. Saint Justin of Rome. Oh, they describe Simon as a man who, at the instigation of demons, claimed to be a god. So the Simon came to Rome during the reign of the Emperor Claudius, and by his magic arts won many followers. So that these erected on the island of the Tiber. So yeah, so they erected it. But here's the thing: the Catholic Church is the Roman Empire. Ain't it funny how they don't even know they don't even know it's their own people? It kind of reminds me of the Catholics are the Roman Catholic Church is so messed up that they don't even know what's going on over here and over there. It reminds me of the fact that when we had the hijacking of the slave trade ships when they came over, there was White Tiger or White something. I forgot what it was. There's two ships coming across to South America. So the Catholics were bringing slaves over to South America, and then there were pirates under the Dutch flag, a Catholic monarchy. Well, those pirates that were working on there were actually Catholics, and then they grabbed that ship and brought it up to Jamestown in Virginia. So basically, the first slave ships weren't coming to America. They were hijacked by Catholic pirates to bring them to America from Catholic ships. That's how messed up. They don't even know what they're doing. No one knows what's going on. It's hilarious. And that's simple research to do, in my opinion. I believe you just look up these certain boats, who built those boats, who's behind those boats, who was involved with them, where they came from, who the captains were at that time, who issued the rights. Because back then you had to be given the right to go through it, and those trips were done, approved over there, and to come across from Africa to South America from Niger side. It was approved by a cardinal, and I can't remember his name, but by the authorship of a papal bull from basically the Pope. But yeah, but he's involved also in a Catholic church. But let's see, let's put Simon Magus. Yeah, see, I'm having trouble with my internet. Why won't it let me go? But I think it's an interesting topic, something that's worthwhile looking into. And I am having all types of trouble. When I try to delete something, it won't let me delete the. Okay, here we go. And actually, I want to type in something else. Simon Magus, the first pope. Let's see if anybody's written anything about it. Simon Magus, in some sources, Simon Magus is often claimed by some sources to be the first pope, but his view is not widely accepted in mainstream Christianity. Yeah, why would they want to accept that? Most traditions hold that St. Peter, well, not most traditions, the Catholic Church, one of Jesus' apostles, is recognized as the first pope of the Catholic Church, which we all know is not true. Doesn't take a genius. Simon the Magician. Anyways, the two Peters. That's what I was thinking about. That's where it struck me as the two Peters, and that's what made me start thinking. Like, wait a minute, Simon the Magician, I believe, was also known as Simon Peter. He had a Peter stuck on him. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting, and that's what led me down that path of trying to figure that out. It was nagging at me. It was gnawing at me. I was like, I'm gonna look into it. I'm gonna see. And I started to study it, did some work on it. I really think I made a podcast on it. I'm not really 100% sure. I wonder if I can go on my channel and type in Simon Magus and see if anything came up. It was really brief. I didn't do a lot on it. Let's see. Go to my videos. See if I can pull it up. I'm not sure if I have it. Search across your channel. Let me just type in Simon. Let's see what comes up. 0 videos. Okay. Simon Magus. Maybe it was on. Maybe it was actually on Spotify that I did a podcast on when I was doing the podcast over there for a brief time, which I like to start putting stuff over there again. Yeah. Let's see. Trying to think of keywords here. Maybe Pope. When did the first Pope show up in the Bible? Oh, that's probably because I see the picture. Yeah, that might be it. Hold on, where's my share screen? So it looks like I did just a brief conversation about it, 5 minutes and 41 seconds. When did the first pope show up in the Bible? And judging by the picture on it, I might have briefly talked about Simon Magus on that. So, all right. I'll tell you what, I get some things come up in my algorithm, which is weird. Huh. So the other day, right, I'm watching a short from Cliff Nechtel, and so I'm scrolling through it, and I'm like, the shorts are so weird. They give you all these weird shorts, and I'm like, what is going on? You don't watch them, but you're trying to get through them and stuff like that. You'll get like my wife does this. She'll scroll through these home cooking things, and all of a sudden, she'll get the Kardashians show up on her thing and things like that, and I'm like, what in the world? You can't. It's weird how you just go down that train sometimes. All right. Let's see. We'll move that back here. Oh, what you're going to find here. Let's see. Oh, where are the... I don't know what video it was. I still will watch the... I watched the other day for a little bit, the George guy for brief, not too long, but I watched a little bit. It's funny this should come up. As I was watching Jeopardy, waiting for the stream, and they said the second pope was instituted around 67, 68. What a coinkydink. That's weird. Why did they talk about the second one? That's interesting. I don't know who the second one was. Did they claim it was a guy named Athenius, the second pope? I can't recall what the name of the second pope was. Who can? There's been 10,000 popes. Okay, it wasn't that many popes, but there's a lot of them. Jeopardy. I actually used to tune in that show once in a while. Some things were interesting. It's interesting to figure out what you know and don't know when you look at it. You got the current pope who's a nut, but then again, pretty much every pope was a nut. Didn't give a name, just said second pope. Yeah. I can't figure them all out. I actually have another binder with a list of all the popes, and I was going through each one of them and looking at the regions they came through from. And it's amazing how many of these popes were actually from very wealthy families. I'm not saying all of them, but there was a lot of them, which was really weird. And there's these three districts or these three areas in Italy, and they come from these three areas, and they all seem to line up around the same spot a lot of times. Yes, there was one supposed Jewish pope, Argentinian. I'm wrong. It was St. Linus. It was St. Linus. I don't know why it's a lot of St. Athenian of some sort. Huh. Why did I think that? Oh, the third pope was from Athenia. Maybe that's why I was thinking Athenas or something. Oh, well. See, sometimes you get things mixed up. You think of a name that's associated with the name, but yeah, I've got a list of all these guys, and my point was going through all of them. A lot of them are Roman citizens, like Roman Empire. None of them were. You won't find any of them from Antioch, Jerusalem, Israel, all in that area, even Palestine. Not there. But there was, like I said, there was three different parts of Italy that there were. I can't remember the names of them, so I apologize, but I'd have to look at the research, wherever that is. So much stuff. I'm getting better at organizing all this research. I've actually got stuff in binders, but I've been buying more binders and more binders to put them all together. Like I'll tell you, for example, which I'll be doing, by the way, after Westcott Hort. I'll be doing what I'll be getting into is like here we have Westcott Hort from the English side. We'll be going through the English New Testament Revision Cup, the RV. We'll be going through a lot of these guys. Lightfoot. speaking of Lightfoot, it's funny I should turn to that page, Joseph Lightfoot. So George there over at that channel council, he was talking about a book that he was reading from Joseph Lightfoot, and maybe I'm wrong on his response, because I typed in, when he said Lightfoot, I typed in that, I said, isn't that the guy associated with Westcott and Hort? And he didn't get to it right away. He got to it, but he said, yeah, he goes, he might be. He might be. It was around that time. He might be. Well, I would have thought he would know something like that. People in that type of position you would think would know that. Now, I'm pretty sure Nick knows that. Brother Nick definitely would probably know that. But this, like I said, when he mentioned recently he's going to be doing the people on the committee, I was like, oh no, he's going to think if he ever does see my videos, he's going to think I try to copy him. But as you can see here, I mean, George Salmon, and he was one of the guys on there. Let's see, going through some names. Let's see here. Textual criticism methods from him. Trying to think of the different Joseph Angus, William Sanday. So that is the Westcott Hort crowd. And then you have to look at the other part of that Westcott Hort tree, which is the American the American Revision Committee, which you end up having Philip Schaff on, Howard Crosby, Charles Hodge. Charles Hodge is an interesting person. He's one that's interesting. But you have all this, and so that's going to be coming down the road too. I know for some it's not going to be boring. That's why my channel will never be one of those 50,000, 60,000 channel. I won't be doing too many deep dive or what's the word? Clickbait type videos. I think we get into the meat of the history of the modern Bibles. I think it's important. I do. I've always thought that, and I always will believe that, and so we'll get more into that as time goes on. I got some stuff on Pentecostalism, the Texas Receptus type stuff. I think, and I'm blessed with a wife. When you find a good wife, you find a good thing. That 100% supports what I do here. And sometimes I've had longer nights than I should be. Yes. Kind of. Yes. Let's pull up Schaff here. Philip Schaff, who was the chairman. Let's see. I go through his birthday. Tübingen. Okay, educated at Tübingen. That was a university in Germany, by the way. That was the other one I was thinking. Remember, I was naming off of Leipzig and Stuttgart, and that was another one. Let's see. See if it's. I'm trying to go through my notes here. He was a professor at a Union cemetery. Seminary. I meant to say seminary. I'm trying to think of what we got here. I got a couple different notes here. He was on the ASV committee. Let's see. Yeah, he tried to mix both Protestant and Catholic traditions. He was very big on that. He believed in unity within all the different historical churches. So that would be unitary. That would be unity. He was big on ecumenicalism. He promoted that. That was another thing that he did. He was definitely into ecumenicalism. But I'm not seeing Unitarian right there on those notes. They might be in another section of notes. But yeah. So yeah. I'll get into that when the time comes. I'll be working on that as well. It's something I enjoy, and I just think it's important. And I do try to keep it as simplified as I possibly can. But yeah, the fact that he didn't know who he was reading his notes on, learning about the Catholic Church or something from a book written by Joseph Lightfoot, which I thought was kind of weird if you consider where he comes from and the fact that he's ecumenical as well. Let's look up Joseph Lightfoot. That's the American Revision Committee. Where's the other one? Let's look up Lightfoot. Let's talk about Lightfoot for a second here. Joseph Lightfoot is going to be on. Usually I put him in pages. Let's see. He's going to be the third one down. Let's see. It's going to be after Westcott. Weird, though, isn't it? It's kind of interesting. Some people are reading things from people, and they do that today. They don't realize the influence of the person behind the person and where they got that from. Let's see. Lightfoot. Here we go. Trinity College. Let's see. Yeah, you did a lot of work on that. Let's see. Member of the committee, obviously. Bishop of Rome, theology. Let's see. Believe in Catholic. We also believe in a bridge between traditional Christian doctrine and Catholic. Although he was against German hypercritical theories, which is good. Yeah, he was definitely. Oh, he loved the Westcott theology and commentary. Going through this whole thing. Again, he's a textual bridge promoter. Basically, that's just saying connected to the Catholic Church. So he believes in some of that stuff. He believes in it. It's like he's kind of a little aside from him. So again, same guy. As we learned, there's another guy on there. I don't think it was Joseph Angus. I think it was another guy who was also Unitarian on the committee. So Philip Schaff he became. I'm thinking of another guy. There's another guy. I can't think of his name, but he was actually part of that whole crowd, Oxford movement, blah, 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 who ended up leaving and becoming a Catholic priest. And first I was thinking of Philip Schaff, but I can't remember who the name is. I'm looking around at binders trying to think of where it might be. I don't recall. So I'll have to apologize for that. I don't recall where I have that information. But yeah, there's a lot of those guys. It's just, come on, man. You have to look at where they go to. And I've said this before. I did a podcast on where you get this from. And yes, German rationalism. I did a video on that, a podcast video on that. But I did talk about the German universities that were involved in with it at that time. And some of those German universities, people on the boards were a mixture of supposed Protestants and Roman Catholics. And some were just headed by Roman Catholics. So you have to ask yourself, where is the influence at? Where does that come from? Like the whole thing with Grandview Shops Rule. I get the Grandview Shops Rule. I looked into a little bit. I did not watch Nick talk about it yet because I didn't want that to influence what I'm putting together on it. And that's not a negative thing. That's just who I am. I get like that. I don't want to accidentally quote somebody else, but there was a man, Charles Woodsworth. He was a bishop of St. Andrews, but Charles Woodsworth to me is important for the fact that he's connected through his father. I think Charles Woodworth Sr., if I'm remembering his father's name, and they were influenced to take on the Grandview. So he ended up pushing that. He's the reason it got pushed into those seminaries and stuff like that and discarded something else. So if it wasn't for that bridge with him, you wouldn't have that. And then you go forward and him who was a supporter of Westcott Hort. And then you got his son who actually then worked with Westcott and Hort. So you have these influences that happen, and they come out of some really wacky places. I didn't think we'd be talking about that stuff tonight, Joseph Lightfoot. But I wonder why he doesn't believe that. So George made a video. I don't know. Well, you may not have seen it. I don't know. I didn't get to watch it. I saw it pop up my thing. Didn't watch it. It was the apostles. The apostles teached in Persian. I'm a little confused with that because the Persian language was well after the apostles were alive. Now, the Persian area, or the Persian Empire, spoke Greek. They spoke Aramaic, but they didn't have an actual. I mean, you have Farsi, that type of language in Persia, but so I'm a little confused. I'll have to watch it. I don't know if anybody saw it. Maybe I'm commenting before I see it, but I was a little thrown off by that because if the Persian language wasn't until like the 7th century, I think it was, right around that area. I'm wondering why he says that the apostles preached in Persian. So I don't know if he meant the older version of Persian that's under a different dialect. But here's the thing about the that time frame. They spoke Greek and Aramaic, and so Latin. So not sure why, and he felt that they spoke in Persian. Now I'm not saying they wouldn't have spoken in a language. One of those apostles could speak in that particular language at that time, but I don't know, I'll have to look at that because I think that's a little misleading since the Persian language, as we know it, wasn't until well after the apostles were gone. It's kind of like a lot of different dialects that change too over time. So, well, Daniel was Hebrew, but was under Persian rule, so there's that. Well, I mean, did Daniel speak in Persian? Now, I'm pretty sure that that's not the language. That was not it wasn't Persian. I wonder if I can find anything about that these days. It's been a while since I've looked into that. I don't know why I would have looked at that either. Probably when I was looking at dialects, learning dialects of different countries and stuff like that, trying to learn when dialects became or what the linguistics of different areas when it came about and things of that nature. Some things that I know, I look up and research some weird things sometimes. I'm like just curious, and then if that has any bearing. Let's see, the Persian language. And again, I don't think they call it Persian language, so I don't know why the Persian language in biblical times. I'm trying to think of a good way to look that up. At that moment, I can't think of a better way of writing it. Yeah, Daniel, they say was written in Aramaic, so I'll have to look at his video because I'm trying to figure out why he would say that. Well, that's something else. That's Bible Hub. Let's see, particularly ancient one significant due to academic Jewish history, Persian influence, Babylonian exile coming from that. I remember there's two different Talmuds actually that came out of that time. Remember, there's a Babylonian Talmud and another Talmud that came, but that's a whole different other can of worms. They go down a whole different avenue. I'm just trying to find out what the actual language at that time, because I don't think it was called Persian because it was different. Again, there, like the Middle East, there was different languages. There was no Aramaic, no certain dialect. What's the word I'm looking for? I have no idea what language the Medes and Persians spoke. I'm not sure. I know Farsi was after the fact. There's a lot of things here. I'm trying to think of what. But I know that they. But that's an evolution. I think Farsi became a thing. I don't. Oh man, I bring it up and then I can't remember what they spoke, but I know they did speak. Like the Persian language became a Persian language. Well, to the fact that they're Aramaic, which obviously because I'm just reading one thing, and I do believe this: Daniel and Ezra being written in Aramaic. I'm not surprised that that's written in Aramaic at all. But that would have been spoke there. I talked about how up on the it was important the fact that they put up on the subscription above on the cross to the written in Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, because Hebrew it was directed at the elite at that time, and Aramaic would have been more of a simplistic term, a simplistic form of language that they would have spoke, the everyday type of language in certain camps. They weren't all speaking Hebrew because that was more of a higher elite people, theological scholars and priests and rabbis and so forth of that time frame. Lack of better titles to give them at that moment. Oh, Iran. That's why he's talking about it. That makes sense. He's trying to talk about Persia because of Iran. That makes sense because what's going on in Iran. Because I thought that was interesting. It came out of nowhere with that, and I'm like, the Persian language. All right, now I'm not gonna get too much for. I'll try to watch his video to see why he went that, and that makes sense now. He's trying to connect it to the Persian language, and the apostles were. Well, apostles were in a lot of different places at that time. You know, I mean, there were a lot of areas, so it's no surprise there. Was George's video recent? If so, I'll check it out and see what he's talking about. Could be a clickbait title. Yeah, I think it was. Well, it just showed up on my algorithm today, so I just assumed that it was recent. Let me look it up. But just saying, that's why I assumed it was recent, because it just came up. Oh, where'd it go? Where in the world? Where'd it go? There it is. Yeah, 7 hours ago. The apostles preached in Persian. In Persian. See, it didn't say in Persia. It says in Persian. I don't try to fact check people, but when I saw that and I saw Persian, I'm like, wait a second. I thought the Persian language, as we know it, was after the apostles. So I don't know. Is it on my watch list? Let's see. If it's not here, I'm gonna click on it and put it in my watch to save to watch later. I'll watch it. I didn't plan on watching it, but I'll end up watching it. I'll go ahead. Speaking of clickbait title, that's another thing. We have a lot of Christians creating viewfinder. Like my title for my videos I've been doing for the influence of Westcott and Hort. Not exactly a clickbait title at all. So maybe I should make a few clickbait titles, would be fun. Maybe I'll make a clickbait title and say, aha, you only clicked on this because it was a clickbait title. But that's why, and I think he does that on purpose, and I think because he wants to have a bigger channel, and I think he's actually basically said that he wants to grow it and make it bigger and this and that. I think it might be for the wrong reasons. Ha ha ha. Yeah. Make a clickbait title to expose clickbait title clickers. Put a title up like, was Jesus Persian? People are like, what? Click on it, and I just say, no, he wasn't. That's it. You imagine how many people would probably click on it? Probably a lot. Just so I'd probably have to turn the comments off so I don't get a lot of anger from it. Like, hey, you lied. No, I didn't lie. I just put a question mark that says, was Jesus Persian? And then I said, no, he's not. And ain't it funny how I think that's what a lot of guys do. A lot of people do. They create a title a certain way that will drive you to the channel. I'm like, why? I don't know why you do that. I don't know. I guess I'm not interested in marketing myself. I guess I should more. Like my wife, when she said, you should make some cards. I was like, all right, I'll make some cards and put them in there for my channel and stuff like that. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I don't get all that excited about it. I'm like, whatever. Do the best I can. We'll see what happens. But sometimes the truth is going to fall where it's going to fall. If someone finds your channel, they find your channel for a reason. It's not because you marketed it and went to those what do you call them? YouTube view buying sites or whatever they're called. One guy did expose that with I think Flint Truth Ministries is what his name is. I don't really care for a lot of stuff, but his whole thing is basically, he's not a bad guy. I don't think the guy's a bad guy or anything. I don't really know him, but his whole thing is to expose Brian Denlinger. That's pretty much his whole thing. That's his whole mission. That one person. He's probably got a couple other people, but he had exposed him and showed basically he's buying the views, and I didn't know that was a thing, so I looked into it, and I'm like, apparently that's a thing. I was telling my son about it, and my son was saying, yeah, Dad, you can go to these sites and you can just buy views. I'm like, what? He goes, hey, you can buy views and you can buy comments. I'm like, wait a minute. You can buy comments? And he goes, yeah. What will happen is I'll make these like comments that match your channel. It's like a computerized thing where the comments will basically match whatever the title is saying, or some will be generic, but some will say, oh, God bless you, brother, for exposing the truth. God bless you for what you do. Praise the Lord. Amen. And all these type of stuff. I'm like, get out of town. That's not real. He goes, Dad, it is. So I'm like, wow. Which makes sense to me. I mean, I think there are people doing it. I really do. I think it's a thing. I think it exists. I don't have it, obviously, because I only have supposedly 4,000 subscribers. Got them at Christmas time. I bet you I get some more next Christmas. Whether Brian Denlinger did it or not, I have no idea. But that's when I learned about that whole idea of like that people do this, that they build these, and it makes you wonder how many people out there are actually doing it. It's got to be a thing. That's basically what I said. I said, get out of town. That is not real. Apparently, it's real, and people do it. People buy them to pump up their views and things like that. So if you bump up your views, you can buy it, I guess, a certain amount, buy comments, and then obviously the algorithm will pick up comments and likes. I guess it picks your video up more with comments. So the more comments that are on your algorithm or on your video, the more exposure it gets, because YouTube is saying that it's a popular video and people want to watch this, so they put it out there and then they pump it to different channels more. Supposedly, although I will say this, he never shows up on my algorithm. He never shows up on my algorithm, which is really weird to me. You would think with that many views, I'd come across him on my algorithm. Doesn't. He doesn't come up at all. Even a former associate of mine there from that other channel never shows up in my algorithm. Not one time. So no wonder he never has any negative comments. Now it's making sense. Well, that is also another thing that I do believe is true, because I've had my comment deleted, which was weird because I was praising a sister in the comments, and then somebody else popped in and wanted to have an argument with me, which I really didn't get much into. I said a few words and moved on, and then my comment got deleted. I got blocked from the channel or whatever. I'm like, whatever, I don't care. But it was just weird because I said nothing about the person in the video. I didn't say anything negative about Brian or anything like that. That wasn't really my thing. Never really been my thing. But so I was blocked and banned and deleted. And people do that too. They block people. Things I learned from my son. When you get a younger son, you learn a lot of these things. People just ban you. They can just block you, and you can't watch the video sometimes, or you not so much watch. You can't like make a comment or anything like that. I'm like, wow. Any born again Christian that bans or deletes anybody, and it's not for offensive language and attacks, that's a problem. That's a problem. I mean, we had a guy on here a while back. I can't remember his name. Brother Jorge will remember if he's still awake. So he worked a long day, so he might be done, checked out. But there was a guy. I can't think of his name, but he got all mad at me and he was going off the rails. He was just telling me I'm wrong and that I gotta, I need to revisit some things. Blah 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 blah. Just going on and on and on and on and on. And I was pretty courteous with him the whole time. I guess some people would have banned him, but never did I block him. Never did I ban him. I didn't go in afterwards and delete his comments off my videos or anything like that, because I don't think you should. Again, unless it's foul language and they're using some really bad language or swear words or any type of threatening situations or anything like that, then yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. But stating an opinion or something like that, or questioning something, well, if you got to ban it, then I can assume you're guilty of it. That's kind of what I think sometimes. Now, there's people who are just making comments or asking questions that are legitimate. And then there are people who are only trying to create some kind of problem on purpose, but it happens. People get deleted and all that kind of stuff. I've heard a lot of stories. And that's the only place I've ever been banned or deleted on, because I don't watch a lot of things. I didn't watch a lot. I didn't make a lot of comments on a lot of different channels. That's not really the thing I do. Not interested in all that, but yeah, it's an unfortunate thing. And I from my point of view as born again Christian, I do not think that should happen. You now delete the whole idea of iron sharpens iron, right? You are not interested in that at all. But if people don't show up on my algorithm, one might question, why not? You know, there's another guy named, oh my goodness, Roy Bell. I saw him one time, and he was a Ruckman guy. Apparently, they wrote letters to each other in jail and stuff like that. To each other in jail. Well, one was in jail, one was not. And I watched 2 of his videos. He's I think pretty popular. He's probably one of those guys who's got like 30,000 people, but he never shows up on my algorithm. Never does he show up on my algorithm. I think I saw him one time. I watched a couple of his videos, and usually things are supposed to get pumped in, but I don't ever see him. So makes me wonder if some people are doing things like that. Oh, brother Steve, thank you so much. You're the best. Blah blah blah. What's that all about? I don't. I got to question a lot of those things. And in the world, in the climate that we're in today, and the hostility that we have for King James Bible believers, I feel like true King James Bible believers aren't going to get as many followers without trying to be worldly. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I got to be honest. I can't see, 100,000, 200,000, 1 million subscribers. I have to question at some point, are they buying views? It's something that is, I think, a legitimate question. That gets into guys like Gene Kim. Those are the only kind of comments I see. All right, I get what you're saying now. And I got nothing against Brian Denlinger. Why are we talking about this guy? I don't got anything against him. I don't hate him. I never was a follower of him. So, how some people have a fallout and, oh, you guys got into an argument. Now, I got none of that. None of that at all. It's just some things that just seem weird to me. That's all. It just things don't, well, he's definitely an anti-church building guy, which I'm not against the thought process of not going to a church building. And if you want to have fellowship in your home and I think that's great. I don't have a problem with that at all. I think it's a wonderful thing. 100%. Not everybody has a location where you can get together with people in your home. I know that we plan on doing that here, but you're pro-Christmas. I think, Brother Calvin, you're anti, as they like to say, Christ Mass. But how are you anti? Because church is not in the Bible. He would probably fall into the category. He's not really the only one I'm thinking of, because there's many out there. But you're anti-church building because church is not in the Bible. Going to church every Sunday. Okay, I agree with you. I got you. It's not in the Bible. Meeting in houses afterwards. Although Brother George would say, you go up to they went into the temple. They were going to the temple. Remember, and I'm gonna actually I gotta put together a video about that Solomon's porch, that whole idea of the land mass and what was going on. But that's Christmas is not in the Bible, but you're cool with it and you celebrate it. So I'm a little confused. See, it's things like that that get me confused. And I'm not saying he's not saved. I'm not saying he's not a Christian. I'm not saying those things at the moment. I'm thinking, okay, let's play advocate here. I'm not gonna use the other word. Let's, take yourself away from a personal approach to just look at the actual facts in front of us and say, well, why? Why do you celebrate something? But I don't use it like everybody else. You do. Why? You're against one abomination, but you're partaking in the other another abomination. I don't. Again, it's things like that. I think, and that's okay for newbies, young people, because some things are learned over time. So if a new Christian comes along, they're just a brand new Christian. It's not, they're not a bad person because they still celebrate Christmas, because some people come from a traditional thing and indoctrination or whatever it may be, and they've done those things for so long, they find it more difficult and like, oh wow, I didn't know this, and they wrestle with these things, and sometimes they stick with certain things. No, I'm not anti-church building, just anti-social club Sunday meetings. Amen to that. So I'm not anti-church building, kind of what you're saying here. I'm anti 98% of church buildings, but not all of them. Not all of them. I think there can be some different ones there, here and there. But I think sometimes you just have to ask certain questions just out of curiosity, why this is not the other. And then I know that some people take it down the road. Well, if you go that long, what about all the way down here and all the way down there? And they get far off the course. Oh my goodness, it's 3 hours in. My wife said to me, she goes, are you going to try to keep 3 hours tonight? So, because tomorrow we got stuff to do. I'm like, oh yeah. I just looked at we're over 3 hours. Hey. Hello, brother. How are you tonight? Good to see you. You're at the tail end of the show here. The program. I know I've gotten pushed back on what I call it. I don't know what you got to call it. It's a fellowship, really. We're just hanging out. But good to see you. Oops. But I think a lot of these things have to be looked at. If there's no scriptural evidence for it, and you're I was working, I just got off. Oh, okay. I hope you had a good day. I hope it was a good day at work today, brother. I hope you did. I hope everything went well. Yes, I know you work with a lot of sinners. We all do, that's for sure. But other than working with a bunch of sinners, I hope you had a good day. But again, if you're willing to say no to something that you don't believe there's scriptural evidence for, why would you say yes to something that there's absolutely no scriptural evidence for? Because it does come down to, no matter what it was or what it is, it many times comes down to not just tradition, but it's the flesh. It's something that you like, you want to do. It was a good day. Good. I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome, brother. And sometimes our flesh does get in the way. Now, it's more accepting, or I should say accepting, acknowledging your flesh getting in the way in briefness, in a moment. But to have it as a long-term thing is an entirely different issue altogether. So, again, hopefully I can have that book done before Christmas comes around. I can have that done. But like I said, technically I have ADD or ADHD. I used to make the joke I have ADHD. I have attention and deficit disorder, but it comes in high definition. I know. I say that joke all the time. It's not the best joke, but I'm still going to say it. So, yeah. We'll hopefully get that up by then. I'm working on that. I'm working on too many things, and again, that's probably why I got sick. Is when you're working all day, you work so many hours, then you come and do all this research and putting together in book forms or videos and getting all those prepped, and especially all the Westcott Hort stuff. I think I wasn't giving that's why I was sick last Friday. I think I was not giving myself enough time to recuperate and let my body get some rest. So I think that caught up to me and just kind of knocked me out for the weekend there. And but we're back on track a little bit. A little bit of stuffiness, but that's not new. The weather's that way. It's just kind of holding on a little bit. Exactly. Saying one thing is wrong whilst having biblical proof and saying another is okay without it is hypocrisy. Yeah. And I think some people fall into a hypocritical state, and I'm not willing to say heretic because I think they fall into it because, again, it's a long-standing tradition. Oh, well, we've always done this, and well, I do it a little differently, and things of that nature. But to me, you're still partaking in the time frame and saying that that's the reason that you take part of it. Well, it's a good time for this. I still make the argument that every time's a good time to worship the Lord. Well, more people on those days. Now, I grew up in the church. Brother Calvin, you grew up in church. Brother Jorge went when he was younger. Brother Christopher went. And a lot of people, well, Brother Bryson, he might have grew up in church. I don't know. But a lot of people grow up in the church building, right? And what do you see at this Christmas time? It's the same thing. Everybody's coming to see their nephew or their niece or their whatever, and then they come and they watch. And Pastor saying the same thing. They do an altar call. And hey, if you're in here tonight, you're not saved, come on down. And more often than not, I'm going to say almost all the time, you never see that at all. I grew up secular. Oh, okay. I did not know that. All right. I don't want to say that's awesome, but okay. It's nice to see you come from a different area, just growing up completely secular. Although I would argue that I almost grew up secular in the Pentecostal church because they did everything worldly. So it's secular world running around with a cross on our neck and saying, hey, we're Christians. All right, today we're going to sin. Tomorrow we're going to sin. We're going to sin again, and we're going to sin again. We're going to go to all the newest movies. We're going to go drink at the pub. We're going to do this. We're going to listen to all the mainstream music. We're going to go listen to Motley Crue and Metallica, and Megadeth, and I'm trying to think of the bands in the 80s. Whitesnake, Poison, all that. So, pretend Christians living in a secular world. What was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. I went off the track there with the grew up secular part. But they never come back. I was going to this one small church one time. And not many people in it. Not much going on there. There's a little Baptist church. Again, I always got to explain it. I'm not Baptist. I've been to Wesleyan. I've been to Pentecostal. I've been to non-denoms. I've been to. I only went to Wesleyan church once. That was crazy. One of the deadest church I've ever been to. Actually, the first day, the one day that we went to this Wesleyan church, guess what the sermon was about? Tithing. We need to get more money. Like, yikes. But anyways, in this small church, it was packed. Christmas time was packed. Uncles, aunts, they want to see their little nephews and nieces. Oh, they're in there. And then the pastor teaches about Christmas and how Jesus was born on Christmas. And then I'm like, no, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. We didn't stay there. But those people never came back. The church went back to the same empty church as it always was. Because they went there an obligation for Christmas. They didn't come for seeking. Now, am I saying that no one's ever gone to one and got saved? I'm not saying that. But the majority of the time, those people never, ever come back. The only religious things I was raised with was a prayer for my parents during meals and night, but they never taught me the Bible. Well, we pray. We pray during the meals, every meal. We pray over our food all the time. We pray at night all the time. But we also teach Bible. So that's the difference there. I hear what you're saying. A lot of Catholics do their little prayers and they don't read their Bible. That's for sure. Yeah, that's an important point that you're pointing out. They never taught me the Bible. That's huge. That's huge. My dad never taught me the Bible. Not one single time. We never spoke about the Bible. But we went to church every Sunday, every Sunday night, every Wednesday, every Friday night, because Friday night was youth group. So I went to youth group. We were there. And guess what we learned about in youth group? It wasn't the Bible. It was not the Bible. Went to the good old-fashioned Assemblies of God, Pentecostal Assembly of God. I was raised in the Fitchburg Assembly of God, Fitchburg A&G, down on Ashby State Road. I think it's still there, but it's not called the Assembly of God. I think it's called Cornerstone or something like that. I remember asking my dad why it's. I said, "Oh, what happened to Assembly of God? It's no longer Assembly of God. It looks like they changed. They got a new church and they're called Cornerstone." He goes, "Oh no, that's still Assemblies of God." I'm like, "What do you mean it's still Assembly of God?" He goes, "Oh yeah." And he goes, "Still AOG. They changed the name because of too many problems. So you change the name. You don't fix the problems, the scandals you might have. You change the name." And then they were saying he stopped going to church because they were having two different services now. They're having one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So it's like two different styles of church, like a modern style church. Well, the early church was the old-fashioned church for the oldies, right? And then the afternoon one was kind of a newer one, I guess, for hippies. I'm not hippies, hipsters. I don't know. I've never actually been to a church that had two different styles like that. But my dad did. That's why I stopped going. I was worser than Catholics. I never knew who Jesus was and what crucifixion was until I was 13 years. I learned about Jesus by a video. Yeah. And there's a lot of videos nowadays that you learn about Jesus. Unfortunately, some people teach about Jesus and they'll teach about some other weird stuff, but I'm not going to get into all of that. But hey, listen, Billy Graham was not a Christian, but I believe people did get saved at Billy Graham's places because you can get saved. You can get saved in a place and like Billy Graham was not legit at all. But people can get saved because they came with a willing heart. They came. It was here, and you just happen to be at that particular event, or maybe watching somebody on YouTube or something or Rumble. But you were at a particular event, and I do believe people honestly became saved at Billy Graham events. But I think they eventually went away from that. Some probably stayed and then got taught wrong doctrine along the way, like a little good doctrine, a little bad doctrine, and you go, yeah, just enough where you're willing to overlook a few things, but you're willing to stick with that other part of it. It happens, it's more common than one would believe. Well, look at my father. He got saved in a Baptist church, right? He went to Highland Baptist Church in Fitchburg. I've talked about this before, and was supposedly saved there, but then ended up in a Pentecostal church, which was strange to me. So he ended up, like I said, you can become a Christian in a different place. Now, I have my questions, and maybe I don't think he was truly saved. I know, maybe he was, and then went off the rails over the years. He knows that I'm a firm King James guy. I wish he would want to know more. We try to pray about it. I prayed outside of his room once or twice that he would change directions, but he was a Billy Graham. He was a big Billy Graham fan. In fact, he thinks that a born-again Catholic is a real thing. A born-again, like there are people in the Roman Catholic Church that born again. But he will also tell you that the Roman Catholic Church is heresy and that they're evil and everything like that. And I was like, okay, how are you a born-again Catholic? It doesn't quite make sense to me. It can't be born-again Catholic. You're telling me they're born-again Christian, but the Catholic Church is an evil thing. So that doesn't make sense to me at all. But like I said, like I don't want to tell that went from where we go from there because you were watch or learn Jesus on a video. You can and definitely can get it anywhere. Like I said, Billy Graham's a very good example of that. A lot of people came with a willing heart and believed in something. I even believe people in the Jesus movement. Not all of them. I don't believe all of them were actually saved, but I think a couple of them did go and were searching for something greater and really gave themselves the Lord, and they're probably not even part of the Jesus movement anymore. So yes, you can find salvation in a place which is where you wouldn't have thought you did, and then I know I've still people have told me before, they're like, well, how didn't you not know more about, or how come you didn't learn about the King James when you were a kid? I mean, you're an old guy. I'm like, King James has been around for a while, and I'm like, well, people find the King James more today than they did before you got YouTube. I didn't have internet as a kid. We didn't have no internet. We had Pentecostal churches. We had Catholic churches up in my area. I can only think of 2 Baptist churches. I think in where I grew up, and one of them I didn't know about till I was a teenager, and that's the Highland Baptist Church, only because my mother told me about it. And I'm trying to think of where I think the other Baptist church was somewhere in Greektown. Yeah, Baptist and King James people were not a thing in that area. When I was a kid, when I was a baby, the King James was in my church, and then they went. But when I was a little guy, when I was just like a toddler, basically in around 1980 in that area, they flipped into the NIV. They left the King James. So I was a little guy. I was a kid. I didn't know anything about that. So all I knew was the NIV. I didn't know anything else. And that's the problem with things is when you don't know. That's why it's important to have more people out on the streets. Never mind the YouTube videos. I know I make YouTube videos, but more people out on the road doing things that way. It's important, I think. Let me catch up here real quick. I remember when I became a Christian, my parents wanted to go to a modern church. After I went there for a few times, I didn't want to go there anymore. And me and my parents argued a lot. Yeah, that'll happen. I wanted to read the Bible instead of going to that church, but my parents argued with me. I always wondered why they wanted me to go when they didn't care when I was younger. Wanted me to go when they didn't care when I was there. I don't know what. I also think some folks were saved by hearing Billy Graham or going to one of his crusades. God can use anyone or anything to bring someone to salvation in Christ Jesus. Well, that's what I mean. I'm like, I think legitimately people went there, and I'm very anti Billy Graham all the way. I'm on record for that. We can argue whether he was back in 1950s and when he first came into. I guess that we can debate that, but I don't really think so. But clearly, you go to the 60s and 70s. He's not. He's ecumenical all the way. He's well, he has big Pope guy. Oh, wait a minute. You actually have a video on playlist. I think Dave Hunt, right? I think Dave Hunt talks about Billy Graham on one of your playlists that you have. So I think we were talking about that before. But I don't believe Billy Graham. I don't believe Billy Sunday was either, to be honest with you. There are arguments or conversations or discussions that could be had about Freemasonry and things of that nature. But I don't want to go too much down a rabbit hole on all that. But yeah, like I said, I think somebody can be saved in a false situation. I think you could be in a false church. You can be watching a false preacher. But I think one of the things is if you're going somewhere in search of truth, you're looking for that. And I think you come to a place, and that might have been just a location where you became saved, whether some guy, traveling preacher came to a church you happened to be at one time because you were looking for the truth or whatever, and he said something right, and you gave your life to the Lord. Doesn't mean you're a false Christian or a false conversion because it was in a false church or a false pastor or anything like that. It was a heart thing. You gave your life to the Lord. That's legitimate. And it could be in a location that's, I'm trying to think of the right word. I mean, you can be in a false situation or false church, it can happen. It can happen. And doesn't mean you're that way. Like I think a Catholic, a Roman Catholic, I think can be born again. But I don't think they can be a born again Catholic. You see what I'm saying? You can be saved anywhere. It's where you go after that. Do you still stay in a cesspool or a false place? Once you're born again, I believe you move on. Yes, sir. I don't believe Graham was saved. I think Almighty God that I'm nobody's judge. Yeah, I don't think he is saved. But well, again, I don't know. He could have been sincere in his earlier days. But from the evidence I've seen over the years, not so much. The only Catholic Christians I believe existed were the ones they called Protestants. And I believe I'm assuming you're referring to I hate to do this, the Greek word for a Catholic being Catholic or Catholicus or my words getting late. Spelled with a K. Christian, yes. Early Christians. But I do agree with you at this part, albeit not all Protestants were Christians. Yeah, just because you have a title doesn't mean you're actually. Lutherans are considered Protestant. Episcopalians, I think they fall. I think they categorize them as Protestants, but they're not Protestants. Lutherans are not Protestants. They're actually Catholic, Roman Catholic, of the Vatican style of Roman Catholic, the Pope type of Catholic. Even Anglicans. The Anglican Church, you would consider, because they're back in cahoots with the Catholic Church as well. So, and that was what was going on even back then. So, kind of going back to where it was, where people escaped England, like whoa! I'm not dealing with all this stuff. This is the Roman Catholic Church, and then it tried to be Protestant. Now it goes back into ecumenicalism in line with the Roman Catholic Church. Even some of the Roman Catholic Bibles match up with Westcott and Hort, who were supposedly Protestant. Just saying. Interesting how that works out. But yeah, I believe what they call a non-denominationalist or whatever. I believe they could be Christian. I think there are non-denominational churches out there that exist that are KJV, that they're like separate. They're not Baptist, but they're just KJV. There's probably very few of them. I thought I saw it a few years back, a video of a guy who was. They were basically a Bible-believing Christian church. They weren't Baptist. They were just a Bible-believing Christian church who used the KJV. I wish I saved that or subscribed to that person, because a lot of times I never subscribe to anything. I see something and I watch it and I move on. It wasn't until more recent years I've subscribed to a couple of channels. I'll watch them more now than I did before. I wasn't really into watching other people as much then. Yeah, so I would agree with that. I don't believe all Protestants are Christians, that's for sure. I definitely don't believe all Roman Catholics are Christians. The whole 6 billion people are Christians. Nope. That is not real. That's not a real thing. So, well, the word Catholic were basically used for many different churches. I thought that the translator to the reader saying that the papists falsely called themselves Catholics was interesting. I'm just a Southern fried. I'm just a Southern fried chicken eating born again KG Bible believing Christian. It's not bad. Try to fit that on a T-shirt. As the saying goes. I feel bad because Brother Bryson just got here, and I'm glad he had a good day at work. But we're 3.5 hours in. And I'm going to make this comment because I do like Brother Nick, but I am not Brother Nick, and I can't go 7 hours. He can do a marathon. I can't do it because I got to get up and do things. So it's 11:24 where I'm at. Actually, y'all are on the same side of the coast as I am. So 3.5 hours in, that's a good hefty amount of time. So I think I'll call it. Although I appreciate you, Bryson, popping in. We haven't seen each other for a bit. I know that there's a couple things you and I don't see, I think, eye to eye on, but that's okay. I love you. I don't love you in the ecumenical sense that I love you, but I do at the moment. I think we're good. I think there are things that people agree on but don't realize they agree on sometimes. But I think I will leave it with this comment here because I just like it. I think it's funny. We leave on a humorous note. But I do appreciate everybody coming in. I'll see now. I'm gonna put up this one. Thanks for the fellowship tonight, brother. Yeah, I appreciate you coming here, and I know you didn't have to. Definitely gonna be praying for your son. He's doing February. My son's got the 25th. I'm pretty sure it's the 25th. I have a worldly telephone on me, so maybe I'll look it up real quick. Apparently my battery's almost dead. And the reason I have my phone next to me, as you all know, is because of my father. I have to be ready to jump up and Hi, brother. You're all over the place, brother. I thought I saw you on Revolution earlier. Yeah. It's all becoming ecumenical, even the political movement. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, it's good to see you, though, brother. It's good to see you. I was on there for just a brief amount of time. I didn't have a lot of time to be on there. I didn't have a time because I was getting ready for tonight. But trying to look up. It's 25th. So yeah, brother. But it's good to see you, brother. Going back to you, brother Calvin. Yeah, you got your son's taking off February. Looks like mine's or MEP's on February. My son's on January 25th. So I'm definitely gonna be praying for your son. That all goes well and the Lord protects him all the way through. So I think. Well, we'll be praying, but I think we'll do. I don't like doing public prayers, but that day or when we come up near close to it, if you're around, I'll definitely do a public prayer on that. I don't usually like public prayers because I don't like to be showy. You know how I feel about people who do public prayers. Sometimes I think they're just for show and just to try to make it look like they're godly folks, but not all the time. But all right, well, thank you, and thank you, brother. Thank you, everybody. And for the sisters that might be watching who don't always say anything, thank you as well. So I'm glad we had tonight. I'm glad I'm not sick this week, that's for sure. But I will catch you next week, Lord willing, and everything goes well. So with that, I'm going to do what I always do. I'm going to awkwardly hit the end stream button because I'm old and I actually have to look at the screen over there before I hit the end button. All right. Yeah, sounds great. I'll be praying for you. Thank you, Brother Calvin. Appreciate that. All right. With that, God bless, and see y'all next week.